I got to turn my mic on. Good evening, everyone. So we are resuming back into open session, our February 12th, 2024 Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education meeting. The first thing we're going to do on our agenda now is the pledge. And if I can get my two types of bears, my polar bears and regular bears, to lead us, please. Here you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we are going to go right into our board recognition, which is Robert Frost and Brentwood Schools musical instrument discussion. My understanding, board members, is this a long program and we may want to limit our questions at the end. Sure. Go right ahead, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Board of Education, for giving us the opportunity to present for you tonight.
Gracias, Junta de Educación, por darnos la oportunidad de presentarles esta noche.
We are students from Robert Frost School. Our mascot is a polar bear.
Somos estudiantes de la escuela Robert Frost. Nuestra mascota es el oso polar. En Frost School mostramos el orgullo polar siendo seguros, respetuosos y responsables.
At Frost School, we show polar pride by being safe, respectful, and responsible.
Tonight we will sing Frost's Polar Pride song. The whole school learns it to remind us to behave.
Esta noche cantaremos la canción Polar Pride de Frost. Toda la escuela lo aprende para recordarnos cómo comportarnos.
We will add the sounds of our new xylophone and metallophones to accompany parts of the song.
Thank you for passing these instruments for us.
Responsible for us, with all the pride and everything you do. Be safe, be respectful, to responsible for us, with all the pride and everything you do. And let's say, I will do my best, which is my turn. Show my classmates and my teachers. I'm at school, I know just what to do. Be safe, be respectful, responsible, take all the power and everything we do. Be safe, be respectful, responsible, take all the power and everything you do. And let's say,
Great job, polar bears. That was awesome. All right, nice and loud, Ivan.
Hello, Board of Education and everyone listening. We are from Brentwood Elementary School and we are in 4th grade.
Thank you. Muchísimas gracias for purchasing new musical instruments, not only for us, but for the whole district.
Music brings us together. We work as a team. We learn to be tuneful, be and artful. I hope you enjoy our performance of a Ram Sam Sam. It is a folk song from Morocco and a song all over the world. We will be we will be singing and playing along with ukuleles.
Ram Sam Sam, Ram Sam Sam, Ram Sam Sam, Ram Sam Sam, Ram Sam Sam,
Thank you. With the few moments we have left, we would like to teach the Board of Education a very easy but fun dance. So if ukuleles could get put away, and just like in our music classrooms, everyone participates and even the audience. So stand up. We're going to use all the space we have. Yes, you too, grown-ups back there. So fourth graders, see if you can hook up with a board member. Can I? Can I? Yes, yes, yes. You want to be with Laura?
So this is one of the first folk dances that we teach in our schools. This is called Sasha. It's a Russian folk dance, old dance. And it goes like this, basically. We say Sasha, Sasha, ras, dva, tri. That's counting to 3 in Russian. And then you have to take your hands, your right hand to your partner. You cross your hands. You go right, right, right. Then you go to the other hands, left, left, left. Then you do both hands, both, both, both. And then you pat your legs. Pat, pat, pat. That's the first part. The second part is you're gonna do that 2 times. The second part, you hook your partner's elbows. You show us, you hook your partner's elbows and you sing la 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 la. Hey. Then you turn, go the other way with the other elbows. La 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 la. Hey. And that is Sasha. Let's try it. Here we go.
Thank you for participating with us.
Hi, I'm Andy Brand, the music teacher, the music teacher at Robert Frost School for about 27 years now. So, yeah.
I'm Barb Novak. I'm the music teacher at Brentwood.
So great. Thank you so much. Huh? Oh, a picture. All right, here. Let's get everybody. All right. Ready?
Wait, hold on.
Hold on. Do we need to hit this one over here?
Hold on. Hold on. We're getting the lights back on. Hold on. Let's get the
Here?
lights. We get a good picture. All right, is it working? Nothing? All right. Everyone say music on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Music! Look everywhere. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Families, your musicians will meet you out that way.
There you go. Thank you.
Great job. We'll go out this way, I got
Let me grab your guitar for you.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, that moves us on to item 4 on our agenda, which is comments and suggestions from the public. Deb Bankies, you're up first. Just give me a minute to read my little spiel while you set up. Okay, this is the point of the meeting where we welcome public comments. In Illinois, the law says that anyone has the right to speak to public officials, like a board of education. but they have to follow the rules that the board has set and made public. To allow the board the time needed to address all agenda items this evening, each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the board. A board member will serve as timekeeper and will give the speaker notice when there are 30 seconds remaining to allow the speaker time to complete or summarize their thoughts. Please understand the board will not ask or answer questions during public comment. If you have questions or wish to have a response to any item, please submit your comments in writing, and the superintendent will follow up with a response.
Tonight's action items on the agenda include the holidays and calendars for the 24-25 school year. In addition to the traditional calendar, there are 2 proposed options for Ridge's balanced calendar. I'd like to remind the board that when the surveys were sent out to Ridge staff and families, only 2 options were given: the traditional calendar and the balanced calendar as we previously used at Ridge. The second balanced calendar option on tonight's agenda was not an option on the surveys. It should not be a consideration and should be removed as an option. The survey results from both Ridge staff and families show a majority for the balanced calendar. This third option seems excessive and appears to be more work than the balanced calendar that Ridge has been using for 20+ years. The third option also doesn't take into consideration summer camps and other activities that families will need to pay additional funds while their children are still attending school after these activities have commenced. We ask you to do the right thing and approve and vote unanimously for the balanced calendar for Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Nicole Kitzinger.
I am wholly unprepared today. I have no written speech. However, I do just want to say that I hope that you vote for the balanced calendar. Pretty much echoing everything Deb said. We were only given 2 options on the survey, so we hope that you only consider those 2 options. And we hope that you consider that the majority of the school students and staff, families and staff, were for the balanced calendar. So please take that into consideration when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I have Renee Rue. Is that how you say it? Did you just say your last name?
Rue.
Rue. Okay.
Yeah. I'm also a Ridge parent. Part of the reason why we chose Ridge was for the balanced calendar. We were very upset when it was taken away last year. So we would please, please, please love for you to give it back to us and in its proper form, the way it was set from the beginning, and not the extended year that was somehow added on last board meeting. Was it? It was very strange, we thought. So please just add the balanced calendar back. We really like it. It makes for great fall vacations. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that moves us on to 5.0. We have 3 items on the superintendent's reports, including the winter benchmark.
Thank you, Ben. Good evening, Tom Ludloff, Associate Superintendent. Happy to be here tonight to share some fall winter benchmark data and really some more bigger picture overall data from the last few years. Before I start though, in the crowd tonight are 2 members of the assessment team, actually the only other 2 members of the assessment team. Tricia Senni, who's our coordinator of assessment and MTSS. Tricia, why don't you stand up so everyone knows who you are? Yay, Tricia is right. And Corey King, I gotta check it. He's our coordinator of data and assessment systems. Without those 2, the amount of data, the transparency, and the pieces we're able to share and put together would not happen. So with that, I'm going to jump right in. So as we talk about winter benchmark, we were processing the information, taking a look, and really started to think about taking the opportunity to pause and celebrate, especially in connection to our strategic plan, and really have planned a March 6th district PLT, where we're going to share some information about the state of the district and really share this progress with the district as a whole, and want to take advantage of that here tonight also. So just to highlight a few things connected, key areas, primary actions connected to the strategic plan. Goal 1, student growth and achievement. Over these last few years, the instructional enhancements, especially connected to curriculum. We're in year 3 of math, year 1 of reading, rolling out things connected to science, social studies, special education, and all the training that goes with that, both in-house and bringing in outside presenters. Lots of learning, lots of application happening, and also continuing to modify and look at our instructional coaching process to provide support to our staff as we roll out those new curriculums and instructional strategies. As I already mentioned, on the assessment side, we're really digging in, analyzing data, using it to make decisions. And, I don't go to other board meetings, and I don't follow a lot of other board meetings, so I can't say I know this, but I truly believe, and when I do go out there and look, the amount of data we share with the board, with the community through this process, this entire report will be part of the board update that goes out to our entire community, I think is a very, very, very high level of transparency, and has been in place the last 3-4 years. Early learning, we shifted all students to a 5-day program and actually expanded to a second site with Ridge. I believe there are 7 students already enrolled at Ridge. When we jump to goal 2, inclusive learning environment, our intervention system improvements, we continue to modify, look at program selection, training staff in those pieces, how we allocate staff, and really analyzing the data to ultimately our hope is that we'll know what programs work best and use those on a very consistent basis. On the same side, social emotional learning, we've enhanced our resources that are available to staff. The junior high had a new resource this year. The elementary is piloting one. Additional behavior supports, family supports, again, lots of professional learning and coaching. On the feedback side, we have curriculum councils, committee work, our great partnership with the DEA, and really trying to collect and gather lots of information and feedback from our community, staff, and families. When I jump to the other 2 goals, we have family and community partnerships. So similar to what we saw in the last piece, families, DEA, the foundation, community organizations. As I was thinking about tonight, I recognize District 21 and our partnership with them for our Director of Safety and Security. That's definitely a new partnership. And then just the level of communications that we have going on and an audit occurring right now. And then our final piece, stewardship of resources. As you know, we went through an equity journey. From my perspective, the positive that came from that process was the awareness building. The awareness of how our schools are different, how we're organized is different, and the different things across the district and needs of our students, staff, and communities that really enhance that level of awareness that was not out there prior. We've done in program and enrollment reviews, curriculum and program audits. When we talk resource allocation, we've really done that district-wide coaching piece and all of those different curricular areas, and looking at instructional resources at the building level for math and literacy interventionists and ESL. And honestly, that piece, there's been so much support from the board to make that happen. I know we've brought things forward as a district leadership team, but the board has been from my perspective, incredible in supporting those pieces, and we're seeing the impact and the differences happening at the school. And then on the fiscal responsibility side, one thing we did, I know Mr. O'Connor often talks about that fiscal cliff that is happening in many districts. As that money from ESSER runs out, many districts hired staff. Now they have to find the money to continue to pay for those staff or eliminate those positions. We took a more one-time usage and not focused on staff, but more on programming, on resources, computers, different things like that, so that we have those in place, but staff really is a board and district expense. So I feel like I'm talking fast. I apologize, but I'm really excited. So let's talk state of the district. So key performance indicators, this was set up by the board as part of the strategic plan process. And we have a goal that 80% of our students are at or above the 25th percentile. We use our iReady benchmark assessment. It's nationally normed. We use those percentiles. So this shows you where we were at in the fall of 21-22. for math and reading. For math, 60.3% of our kids were at that 25th percentile or above. For reading, it was 63.8. And as we complete this winter benchmarking, we're now at 67.8 for math and 68.3 for math, 67.8 for reading. So we've had steady incremental progress throughout. And it's something key to the work that our building leaders, our staff at the building, teaching, resource staff, support staff, district level leadership to continue in this process over time, and that positive piece continues to turn out.
Question.
Yes.
Do we know? I'm looking at trying to go apples to apples, winter to winter. Looking at reading in so winter 22-23, we were at 68.3, and we're down to 67.8.
Yes.
Is there any indication why, or?
Well, I want to be careful not to target a group, but with our close to 600 newcomers in the district, just actually this year alone, between fall benchmarking and winter benchmarking, we added 109 newcomer students who are second language learners. So we believe that there's an impact on that, especially in reading, because we have kids just learning a new language, and many who are just new to the country.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if we have any data.
We want to make sure we're aware of that piece. And again, can we tie that down to, because we have some schools that have lots of newcomers that have made progress, but it definitely is an impact on the system. Good question.
Thank you.
Just briefly, our key performance indicator here is based on partially on the iReady scores, right? Or largely on the iReady.
Exclusively on the iReady scores. Yes.
So it's based on 25th percentile, but that's a how do I want to say this? The students we're comparing to choose those percentiles is the national iReady pool.
The net from 2018-19, pre-COVID, yes.
Oh, so it's a set value pre-COVID.
Yes.
That we're comparing to. Okay.
Yes.
That answers my question.
And to speak to that, actually, iReady is updating their norms based on current status and the data they're seeing. So we'll see some changes in the future.
Okay. So when they do that, everybody's gained a little bit. So that shifts where the percentile cutoff.
Yes, we'll have to really consider what this looks like next year,
we have
because
to go back and recalculate.
the data could change.
Okay.
And won't be exactly a comparable to the past.
Do we have any idea what maybe percentage of schools in Illinois are utilizing iReady for assessment?
I know I can ask them about the number of districts, and I might even have that, but I know we're in the fall, I think over 300,000 Illinois students participated in iReady. So it's a fairly significant amount. And I know I asked for that once. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can share that in the Friday update.
As compared to IAR, for example, that's 100% of
yes,
schools.
Every school, when you talk IAR, has to participate, grades 3 through 8. This is grades K through 8.
So I'm going to throw one small curveball on the apples to apples.
Yes.
Do we know how many new students we had at the winter 22-23 testing?
That I don't know, but I can find out.
Because that could also tell us how big of an offset we've got there.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. So we'll dig into that. And I know one of my colleagues is taking notes for me. Or Tricia and Corey are. Thank you. They didn't think they'd have a job when they came tonight.
So wait, but can we go back one slide
Yes.
just real quick? So looking at math, so we're looking at the blue numbers here.
Yes.
Math, the new math curriculum was put into place
In the fall of 21-22.
fall of 21-22. Okay.
So we are now
so
in
basically from the beginning. So we're seeing. Okay.
We are
we're
in year
seeing that
3.
improvement there, and then the new literacy is brand new.
Fall of this year, 23-24.
So
Correct.
hopefully we continue to see with the new curriculums in place the gains over.
Keep in mind, throughout that time on the reading side, we were implementing some new resources, especially related to phonics. And throughout that time, we're really enhancing our intervention system. Okay, so now let's talk iReady proficiency. So this is a picture of students who are above, mid, or early on grade level in iReady. Again, that kind of 2.5 year window. So you could see where this is reading, and I keep saying this to everyone. In the past, I always started with math because math was our primary focus. Now that we've moved to reading, I start with reading. So you can see how, I'm going to take a chance, Ben, see if it works. Where we started back in the fall of we had 23% of our kids at the start of the school year were proficient. Keep in mind, this is an end of school proficiency assessment. So they're looking at end of first grade, end of 8th grade when they assess in the fall. That's why you see that laddering up over time. Started at 23%, ended at 49%. Lower than the state, lower than the nation. Last year, we started at 27%, ended at 53%. Caught the nation and passed them, still pretty well under the state of Illinois. And then this year, we stand actually even with the state and nation as we move into winter. And you can see down here is that count for the nation, how many kids are part of this assessment system in the nation and in Illinois. That number for Illinois is a little less. The number of districts don't test in the winter, just fall and spring. So we've had some nice growth over time. I think what's important in this piece, especially when we talk about proficiency, is, are we seeing the progress over the course of the year? And then how does that compare? It's one of the things I appreciate the most about working with iReady. We can see how we compare to other groups across the state and the country.
Mm-hmm. And then to use Lucas's example here of apples to apples, we have to remember that the state, I believe it was in the teens as far as English learners go statewide. So when we're looking at reading scores, our English learner percentage is 35%, I think, give or take.
46.1, I believe.
Yeah, compared to the state percentage, which is, I think,
14.5.
Right.
Yes, we're about 300+% when we talk EL learners.
And I want to clarify one more thing. So when you go from 49% in spring down to 27% in fall, from end of 22 to the start of 20,
yes,
22, 23, right?
Yes.
That is not students losing ground. That is students being assessed on the next grade.
Yes. So I ended the year, 3rd grade, end of year assessment. Now I'm in 4th grade. I'm taking in a sense, end of 4th grade assessment to see where I'm at.
27% who come in have already met their 4th grade assessment.
Yes.
Having come in at 49% of the 3rd graders had met theirs.
Yes, it's a good way to look at it. So then I know I've included these the last few, because we do have a large number of kids that are falling in the 2 and 3 years below. So again, you can see that in this case, you want the ladder to go down. So back in the fall of 21, 22, we had 40% of our kids were 2 and 3+ years below grade level. We ended the year at 24%. Again, way off from where for the state and nation were. As we come into this year, we are at 35%. And as we fall now, we're at 26%. So we can continue to see a decrease. Again, that's connected to the great work of our teachers, our leaders, the curriculums in place, the strategies in place, and the interventions in place. So we continue to see improvements over time, different groups of kids, hundreds, thousands of new kids coming in the system. And that's really, when I talk about benchmark, this type of data, this is that dipstick of the system. How's the system doing, and how's it doing over time? So when we talk math, you can see where we started, and where we've moved over these last few years and where we stand today. So we really went from being behind both the nation and the state to basically getting even to now we're outperforming them really over the course of the last few years, and continuing to grow into that. So super positive to see that piece. I believe that it's a function of a standard curriculum across the board, 3 years in, trained into that, coaching into that, staff implementing at a high fidelity level, leaders leading into that. Yeah, I do. I think you can really see the impact of that process over time. And then this is that 2 and 3+ below grade level, same kind of piece. You can see how that ladders down over time. And really this year we started below which is good, the state nation, and really continue to pick up pace around that. Ultimately, obviously, we want to get that down to 0. That would be our goal. So now this is the Illinois Assessment of Readiness. I jumped back to 2018-19 because that's the kind of standard pre-COVID year. There was no testing in 1920. And then you can see for reading how we've improved over these last 3 years. You can see the state had a really significant increase from 21-22 to 22-23. This data is all based on the school report card for last year. So we've had some nice positive growth. Over time, when we look at math, we almost got to the state.
You can stop saying almost.
Close enough. Plus minus, it's even. Okay. But again, where we started and then where we've moved over these last few years. Again, this is, as Ms. Zach said, this is the test all kids in Illinois take. So when you compare, and as Mr. Mancia pointed out, while we compare to the state, we really aren't the state when it comes to a comparison. We're very different, but we have very high expectations for our kids, and they're meeting those expectations. So since we know over 40% of our kids are EL, there are a few tests in the state of Illinois for our kids. This is the access test. This is the proficiency test. And you can see how this flows over time. Actually, we were in school in the winter of 2020. So access is January, February assessment. So you could see where we were then. When you see that dip, it's a pretty big dip in 2020. 21, only about 70% of our kids were in school to be assessed that piece. Mm-hmm. Then you could see the big jump up the following year. We believe that's tied to now all kids tested. So some kids had a 2-year window before they assessed. And then we're back at that point, kind of even with the state. Again, we think newcomers will definitely have an impact on those results as newcomers at 3 years or less in the United States from all over the world. But this is a good piece. Once you pass, get a 4.8, I wouldn't call it passing, but once you meet that expectation, you no longer take this assessment.
Mm-hmm. So does this mean that, like, for instance, for 22, 23, only 5.4% of our ELs tested out?
Exited out, correct. K to 8. We see at grades 3, 4, 5, it's about 20%. Mm-hmm. The state, and this is a great example, the state has this progress to proficiency target. You have 5 years to exit from an EL program. Kindergarten doesn't count in that. They set a target. You take the test the first time. They set a target to meet that 4.8. If you hit that target, you get 100%, you get full credit. So you can see over time how that's played out here in the district. So this year, 44.6 of our EL students hit their target.
Have we ever tested the English proficiency of a native English speaker? Like, for example, we have the kids that are ELs that are only 5 or 6% are actually testing out. But a lot of them speak English, a lot of them understand English, they read in English, etc. They just don't test out for some reason or other. But I wondered, like, if there was like a control group of native English speakers or people that only speak English, would they also get the same scores? You know, like how proficient?
We have not. I don't know if there are studies out there. Yeah. It is a pretty comprehensive test. It's reading, it's math, it's listening, it's speaking. Mm-hmm. It's very comprehensive. I know at one point someone shared with me that many, let's say, in English only, my own kids, mm-hmm. if they took the English proficiency, if they were assessed coming into kindergarten, they might not pass that as an English proficient, even though that's the only language they have.
Yeah.
Over time, that's something we can talk to Dr. Perdomo about, but I've
always looked at it like the Constitution test. You know what I mean? That you take to become a citizen. You know, you think you're just because you're a citizen, you're going to know every answer on the test.
Yes.
But it's kind of similar. I don't know. That's my own little rant against the access test.
Got it. So now let's talk interventions. So, been a big focus for the district as you look at this piece. So last year at winter, and just to clarify, winter isn't mid-year when it comes to the assessment piece. We're a little bit more than halfway through the year when we take the winter assessment. Our students who were receiving intervention on average, hundreds of students, increased their average percentile gain by 3.1 points. Then as we move through the rest of the year, 1.5 to end the year at 4.6. Ms. Senni has done some great research around this connected to stretch growth. So we see at kids, if they can get the 2.5, 3 to 6 percentile gains, they're often hitting their stretch growth. If we can do that multiple years, we can move kids into that average range. So you could see though this year, through the winter, we're at 4.2 compared to 3.1 last year. And this is for reading. This is math. So last year overall, we had a 5.3 average percentile gain. So far this year, we're at 4.5. So we do analyze actually down to the student and the program to, ultimately we want our toolbox to be full with the things that work the best. We're still working through that process, but that was a big part of this year. Now, this is intervention provision rate. So a provision rate is the percent of students who qualify for an intervention plan who actually receive intervention. If you recall, a few years ago, we were at a much lower level than we wanted to be. And actually, I think some former board members and board members here today said, if a student needs intervention, we need to get them intervention. So we've been working on that process. Last spring, we brought some recommendations to the board. The board approved those. So when we moved from the spring to the fall, you can see a pretty significant change in the amount of meeting that intervention need. We also, as a system, really did a needs-based review of where we assign staff. In the past, it was maybe a building each had one math, one reading. Now some have up to two. We're sharing staff across the board and continue to work and modify that system. But the whole idea is to meet the needs of the students as best we can. We're getting pretty close. We also have kids, the system's at the point where kids are moving out of intervention during the course of the year, and then we're adding in new students. That's a big key for this winter benchmark piece. Gives us an idea of where kids are at on that process. We also added in the behavior piece. So we've been working on that piece to ensure if student qualifies for behavior intervention, that we have a plan in place and those needs are met.
Tom, question.
Yes.
Can you remind me what qualifies for intervention? Are we like 2 grades behind, 3 grades? I mean,
So we really use that percentile piece. So if you're under that 25th percentile, we want to focus in on, so tier 3 is about 1 to 10th percentile. Tier 2 is the 11th to the 24th. Thank you. So we want to meet those needs as much as possible. So when we look at 84% of the kids in reading, my assumption is the kids who are probably in the 20th percentile or above might not be able to receive intervention at this time. We really prioritize based on the biggest need and work our way up.
I'm just curious how it translates towards how many grades behind a kid is.
I think it's fair to say if you're 3 or more grades behind, you're probably in that under tier 3, under the 10th percentile, and 2 to 3 probably in that 11th to 24th. I think it's fair.
I'm wondering if there's something more we can do, because if a kid is 2 grades behind, I'm already concerned, right? I mean, even 1 grade behind. Granted, I know I already starts you with you being behind because it tests you towards the goal for the end of the year, not a given moment, right? So yes. I'm willing to say 1 year behind is not really the right number, but 2 year behind, I'm already concerned, right?
Yeah, I think we continue to look at how we allocate the resources we have, which the board increased significantly. And I think probably that biggest piece is what programs are working the best, and then all the training that Ms. Senni's doing with the intervention staff to build on their practices. So we expect this to continue to grow. If we see additional needs, I think we would come to the board and say we see a need for additional staff or resources or things that go with that. Right now, I don't believe we're asking for any additional intervention staff this year. Oh, thank you. Please, someone speak to that. So I'll speak to it. No, the reality of that volume of newcomers. So it's reality, a newcomer might be 3 years behind because they just took an English reading test and they don't speak English. So it's not an automatic that you should get intervention, but at the same time, we were trying to provide additional support. That's all those ESL resource teachers the board approved, we increased, and trying to find ways to intervene and provide some supports. There's been a ton of work in the district, and we're finding some success with some programs. So we want to support that process. But that's a good piece. I'm glad that came up to remember. There are kids in the system that don't speak English and have to take an English test. So we want to balance that out.
I mean, it makes sense. I came to US as well, and
yeah,
my daughter is in a dual language program, right? I'm just curious if there's like more we can do to help the kids. Well, it doesn't have to be like just hiring more interventionists, because I mean that might not be the right answer. But maybe is there a subsidized or paid by us way to get them engaged in, I don't know, some learning programs or remote tutoring or things of this nature, right?
Sure.
Or, of course, summer program, which I know we have a presentation for
Yep.
in later.
Yep.
So all of those things can be impactful and helpful
to magnify that piece. Absolutely.
Mr. Ludloff, if I may jump in, one thing that might be helpful to think about when we look at these provision rates, which these are about documented intervention plans. That's what we're looking at here. So the percentage of students that have a need, that have a documented plan in place. There are many students who have a need that can be met in the classroom through differentiated instruction. And so there may be students who are receiving all kinds of support from their classroom teachers or from flexible grouping or different arrangements of teaching that don't have a documented plan in place. So while yes, we continue to look at many different things that we can do for students and think outside the box, this also is painting the picture of those documented plans, and there are lots of additional supports being provided to students in addition to that.
MTSS structure is based on school, campus, correct? There's not like a district-wide bar that you meet tier 2 in terms of the whole district. You meet tier 2 in terms of like, I go to Robert Frost.
I'm going to speak to this, and then when I'm wrong, they can interrupt me. We actually do have a district-wide system. That is the focus. Now, the reality that we've seen in some schools, depending on the size of the school, the needs of the students, they might be able to provide more intervention or even at a higher percentage. If you recall, I believe we just talked about this. We had a student who went to one of our schools receiving intervention, moved across the district to another school, and no longer did because they were above the 25th percentile and there wasn't room for that student to continue. So part of this work these last few years is really to get that down to a district level system so we can be very consistent. Then we know if we have additional needs, not the numbers in a sense are off across schools, because some schools can do this, some schools can do that. Is that okay? All right, thank you.
I think too, if I could just add, I think overhauling our entire resource allocation of those interventionists was really key to seeing the success that we're seeing here. But I think the other piece in reality, and what our building leaders know very well, is that when you are in a building with less need, and the lowest we went for a position was 0.5. So even if you're at 0.5, and we have some schools that had maybe 7 kids, so you are able to fill in your caseload a little bit more in some schools than others, depending on how that schedule works out. So there is influence and impact of the makeup of the individual building that impacts our ability to kind of really sustain what the district's MTSS program is across each of those individual buildings. So, staffing, some buildings may have been like a 1.6 and a 0.4, but there's travel time and you can only split a person so many ways, right? So there's impact of that we're looking at as well. And can I ask, Mr. Vittori, maybe you know the answer, were we able to fill 100% of the roles of the interventionist roles that were approved from last year?
All of the interventionist roles are filled,
yes,
for literacy and for math.
Okay, thank you.
But that does remind me, some were second language people that we had to move back into the classroom. So we were able to fill them all, but not the way we wanted to. Okay. So then sense of belonging and panorama. So this is our sense of belonging data. This is a survey we do in the fall and the winter. Students in grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 8th. And really it's a favorable response to their sense of belonging. So one of the reasons I included the percentile, because you can see that's a pretty big gap between elementary and middle school. There is a reality of that's where middle school kids are at. So you could see this year in our grades 6th through 8th, 57% of the students had a favorable response to their sense of belonging. That's at the 80th percentile. So basically that means we scored as well or better than 80% of the middle school students in the country who are took part in this assessment. So the same as at the top for our grades 3 through 5. So it's a nice perception tool. Obviously, as we did, it gives us a good idea where we're at. Schools really use this to get down to the level of individual students to provide necessary supports and interventions.
And I think over the years, as we've done this for the junior high, it's always in that 50 range. And do we think it's more of just that age you're going through changes, your own questioning of where you belong, et cetera?
In my experience, having 4 children move through that period in their life, that all of my kids have told me it was the hardest. Middle school age was the hardest time they had in finding who they are, their friends, all the things that go with that. It's a difficult time. We're lucky that we there's a special teacher who's a middle school teacher, junior high teacher, because kids have needs but they don't want anybody to help them. So yes, it's very consistent. That's the main driver behind that percentile piece, just so we know that this is like the normal. Probably under 50 is more of a normal 50 percentile. Okay, final piece. So the education recovery scorecard. So this is a study that's been going on the last few years, a partnership between Stanford and Harvard. And what they've been doing, what they call looking at learning loss and recovery pre-pandemic 2018-19 school year, looking at assessment scores for state assessments like IAR. They don't focus on proficiency. They focus on those scale scores and how kids do, because every state has different proficiency levels. Illinois actually has, there are only 5 states in the country that have a higher proficiency level than Illinois does. 8,000 schools, 30 states, and really they dig in and try to say how are kids doing today compared to back in 2018-19. This was just released at the end of January. Maybe for me, the best day of the school year. So this is this scattergram they give you. This is 5,000 of the biggest school districts in the country. As an example, that's Chicago. This is District 59. So this is reading. So when we compare our kids who took the state assessment last year, they scored 0.54 above where the kids were back in 2018-19. They define that as grade level. So over a half a year improvement from where we were prior. Different kids, obviously, but significant. And you can really see, this is the line of 0. They were the same. This is below, and this obviously is above. The way we've used this graph, this is the percent of free and reduced. So you can see where we fall. These are the highest low income numbers. These are the lowest. I included, and I'll be honest, I have the map. I really don't want to get into number 3, what school district is that, and things like that. I can obviously share that in the Friday update if you really want that data. I know I don't like when other school districts use District 59 to say we're better than them, but in this case, we've really outperformed most of our local districts in reading 2019 to 2023.
So let's hammer this. Let's look at this again. Let's look at it, make sure that we all get it. So just to rephrase it, we're looking at where things were pre-pandemic, 2018, national study of where these students were pre-pandemic in 2018, end of 2019, and where they are now. And when we look at that data of where they are now, our district right there in the middle, when we say that 0.54, explain that.
So
percentage.
0.54, they define that as above where they were in 2018-19. So they define it in grade levels. So that's over a half a year ahead of where they were at the end of 19.
Where they were. So when we hear like the national dialogue, you turn on the news, you see our kids catching up from COVID, et cetera.
Yeah.
Our kids have caught up and exceeded where they
Our
were.
kids here in District 59,
District
correct.
59, specifically in District 59,
Yes.
have caught up to where kids were 2018, 2019 pre-pandemic and exceeded those levels today.
Yes, in rating.
In rating.
In the nation, there are 3 states where that's true.
Mhm.
Illinois, Louisiana. Oh no. Not Alabama. I wrote it down, but I forgot. So 3 states in the entire country actually are showing data on that path. So this piece is taking the same data. Now this is just Illinois data. Now there are 500 plus districts represented here. I know we have 1,000 districts in Illinois. This data is public. I'm guessing close to all districts are represented. But what you can see here is you can compare District 59 to the state. And they even break it out by some of the subgroups. White students, Hispanic students, poor students, non-poor students. Those are their terms, not ours.
And we're exceeding the state in each category.
Correct.
And I think when we compare this locally with those numbers, we are the piece that this gives us, that when we look at the IAR to Illinois comparison, we are the furthest to the right out of all of our local surrounding districts. That is a significant factor because standardized tests are absolutely proven to skew towards more affluent areas. So when we are seeing that level of growth and we are that far to the right on the scale, I cannot emphasize enough how significant that is in terms of what we're able to accomplish. And even being able, I think the power in this and where we can really grow is looking at who are those people further to the right of us and further above us, and how do we reach out and connect and learn? Because I think there should be some people reaching out to us and asking what we're doing, and we can equally do that as well, because I think this is something to really be proud of.
Louisiana and Mississippi.
Mississippi, thank you. Thank you. So, and then this last piece. So one thing I like to see, I call these comparable districts. So I look at our 4 main demographic drivers, EL, low income, Hispanic, and white, and say, find some districts that are similar. So these are 7 districts that have a similar overall demographic that we have. And I want to see where we're at in terms of those districts. And many of them are local districts, area districts, but a few are not.
And those are the numbers represented. So in the map on the right, we see the comparative districts that have similar demographics to ours.
Yes.
And then on the actual chart, we see where they land 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yes.
Compared to us.
So, and you could see, to Dr. Bresnan's point, most of these districts are hanging around that 50 to 60 low income percentage.
And just to remind everybody, this is 2019 data, so it's pre-pandemic test scores, to 2023, last year's assessment, before we did our reading curriculum implementation, where we've done some tweaks, but we have not done our full
full implementation was just
right?
Started this fall. Yes. Surprise. So yes, this is math. Again, from my perspective, when you talk about all the work, the leadership, the adoptions, the training, the coaching, the intervention, after 2 years, this is where District 59 stands, 0.9, almost a full year ahead of where we were in the previous, in 2018-19.
So on average, in those 3 years, our kids learned 3 years plus 0.9.
Yes. So we're exceeding that piece. Yes, absolutely correct.
No, this is the fact that we were pretty low to start with pre-COVID, but phenomenal accomplishment.
Yeah. The reality of this isn't about proficiency, but we were in the decline. So the reality of that stopped amazingly as we went into COVID, and then coming out the other side, we're making some really strong positive growth. Now, you should know, in math, only the state of Alabama has shown an increase compared to the 2019. No other state. So when I jump into Illinois, what you'll notice when we compare to Illinois, all those results for Illinois are negative. Kids have lost ground.
So to just reiterate, on average in Illinois, from 2019 to 2023, the pandemic recovery terms that they're looking through here, are the most districts declined in their math scores.
Yes.
We did not.
We did not.
So we were positive, right? Okay, I just want to be very clear that.
And I would pretty
when you hear all these
significantly.
negative stories, right?
Yes.
We have not just recovered, we are exceeding our pre-pandemic scores in both math and reading.
Yeah. And you can see how that compares to our local districts. And not everyone's, I mean, the work that's gone into these last 3 years here in District 59, our area districts across the nation and state is really incredible when you step back and think about what kids went through during that time, and really everyone. And then the final piece is just those comparables. So it looks like I made a mistake. This is reading, not math. My apologies. So again, just a great way to look at the system is improving. And kids are changing, staff are changing, structures are changing. The system continues to improve. Why I am so stuck on this piece, it's improving compared to the nation. And the state and the area and everything that goes with that. That is powerful stuff. And I can't wait till March 6th when we get to really dig into that with our staff and celebrate and recognize their work.
No, definitely. The even for Mr. Gray, when we think of potential topics, newsletter topics of taking information like this, because we should celebrate when there's time to celebrate. Is there still more work to be done? Absolutely.
Times 1,000.
Absolutely. You know, but celebrating what we are doing here as a district, the achievements that we're doing here as a district, because there is that narrative. There is that nationwide narrative. The kids are never going to catch up. The kids are never going to catch up to COVID, but here we did. And we exceeded where we were, you know, so it's yeah, fantastic. Good news. But figuring out ways, I know there's a million people watching online right now, but figuring out ways to get that news out.
So if you can go back one slide, I've got more to add. Because I found this data, and I read this New York Times article that said the 2/3 of districts in the nation, when they look at where they were before the pandemic to where they are now, they've made up some of the ground they lost, but they're still behind. And there was this chart showing districts that have lost like more than 2 years worth of learning, districts that have lost a year to whatever it is, and districts that have grown were like 27%. And it hit me, 59 is in the one that's grown.
In both reading and math.
In both reading and math.
Correct.
Right? That hasn't happened in most districts in the country. So that doesn't happen without our teachers doing a great job. We've got teacher representatives. I already reached out to the union president and let her know how thankful. It doesn't happen without a superintendent's team. It doesn't happen without the building principals. It doesn't happen without the training and the curriculum and everybody, the family. I want to make sure everybody out there, make sure you tell your kids good job, right? They've been working
This is
hard.
about the work the kids are producing.
And,
Absolutely.
I know you don't want to talk about the neighboring districts, but I've got a few facts that I'm going to share. So of all the districts surrounding District 59, we have the highest growth in reading. So every district that borders us, I know you included one that doesn't border us, which wasn't necessary on your graph because it messes up my little factoid. But and we also have the highest growth in math from 2019 to 2023. We are the only district of our bordering districts that has seen growth in math from 2019 to now. In fact, we are beyond our 2017 scores, which there was a trend down that you showed earlier. We're above that. In the state of Illinois, District 59 was the 11th highest in math growth in the state of Illinois, right? So that's a huge accomplishment. 14th highest in math growth among students economically disadvantaged is the term. The New York Times used the term poor students. All of those are not the right way to describe our students, but right. 14th, fourth highest math growth for Hispanic students. Huge difference. For the first time in literally a decade, District 59 exceeds the Illinois average in math. I look back, it was ISAT data, for those of you who remember ISAT. Right? So it's been a decade of some difficulties and now a big upturn in the last 3 years. And I went and downloaded the data and went through it because this is all, there's a big Excel spreadsheet you can dig up. So I went through the national data. You did the Illinois ones, right? So I went through, their data includes for math, 7,060 school districts for math total category, right? And so I looked at where were we in 2019? Of those 7,060, we were 5,974th, 15th percentile, right? Near the bottom in math performance. 2023, so last year, end of last year, we went up to 2,932 out of 70,060, 58th percentile. From 15th percentile
Holy
to
crap.
58th percentile. Watch your language, mister.
Sorry, excuse me.
Gavel that man.
Oops.
You could say that outside the meeting. Okay, so then I went through and I said, okay, let's look at, of those 7,060, where do we fall in math growth? We were 43rd highest in math growth, 99th percentile. Out of 7,060 districts, out of those 30 states, we were the 43rd highest in math growth from 2019 to 2023. That's amazing. Like, I don't know why there aren't reporters sitting here saying, what did you do to make that improvement? I don't understand, because we are among the top in the nation in math growth. Now, we're not where we want to be, but we keep on this trend, and we are going to really be producing amazing results for our students. And again, it doesn't happen without great teachers, great superintendent, great SLT, everybody. The board deserves very little credit for that. Just to be clear to those people watching at home, it is really about the people who are day to day working for our students. So thank you, and thank you to the teachers, and thank you to the families out there.
Thank you.
Wait, can I ask for a follow-up?
Yeah, follow-up, go
just
ahead.
one thing. So I want to echo my colleagues here. I loved your metaphor of the dipstick of the system. That's fantastic, right? I want to applaud the district for making systemic changes. I think they're leading to slow and steady growth. I especially appreciate the adoption of new curriculum, the dual language conversation that's happening, the potential expansion of preschool. I think those are all things that are going to add to this as well. I guess what I'm looking for, and I can float this to the rest of the board and see what you guys think. My concern is for the kids who are not going to be around long enough to see the benefits of the systemic growth. And what I want, I was just like, kind of like a condensed version, because I know you guys talk about this in different presentations all the time, but some kind of condensed version of, so how is the district providing, this is what I wrote down, how is the district providing remediation for academic recovery for the students who will not be here long enough to benefit from that systemic growth, which is fantastic, right? But how are we addressing the kids who are just not going to be here long enough to benefit? Anything from like expansion of intervention services, summer programming, restructuring of MTSS, adjustments to even things like study halls, homeroom, win time, just some kind of like catch-all where we see all of this and what down to the nitty-gritty, how are we addressing those kids? What do you think?
We're talking about like the kids at the end of their time here, right? The sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade kids.
So I think that these are those kids. The data tells us as a system that all of the things, because that's where it started. It started with a major overhaul of schedules to allow for win time, both at the junior high and now at reading in the elementary, and then expanding into math at the elementary. We've had major schedule overhauls in the past 3 years, including that win piece. Our resource allocation overhaul to go on a needs base, those are the results of those specific actions for those specific kids who are here in front of us today. So they are all benefiting. I think that the piece that I want to be just cognizant of is that there is at a certain point a learning saturation, right? We cannot expect 3 years of growth for every child within a classroom. Like there's a maximum of, like, you know, if we did this every day for 2 more hours every day, that we're going to get double the output. So I think what we are doing are the exact things that have led to this data. This isn't just a new math. This is the schedule change with time, how we structured our coaching model. All of that is nothing like it was 3 years ago. I can't think of a single aspect of our system that we have not touched in order to do exactly what you are talking about. I think the hope is, or the plan is, not even just the hope, the plan is that we are going to get our tier 1 in the core in a really good spot, which is what we are seeing with math, and then layering in from both ends with the interventions so that our focus has never been learning recovery. It's been learning acceleration since I think the minute I stepped in and partnered with Susan and with Katie in both of their departments. So I think that has been the driver and focus and goal. When I look at what else can we do beyond, I look forward to those opportunities, but without tier 1 being really tightly in place, it's hard to layer on interventions that may not be that are more the Band-Aids as opposed to the cure. And so I think the answer is we do both, which is what is currently in progress. So I don't know if, Susan or Katie want to add more to that conversation. I think the big piece that you also talked about and where we're seeing some of the more significant needs is around our supporting our English learner program, which I think needs to just be more significantly and rapidly addressed than it has been. And as we presented, that is a more complex problem to solve. So I think we need to wrap around that a little bit more urgently to do that piece. But I think everything else that we put in place as a system is doing exactly that. Rapidly accelerated learning for the students who are in front of us today to maximize every day that we have with them.
And just the board has access to like grade level data on how our growth is. We have some very, very high levels of growth happening in our junior high in our 7th and 8th grade classrooms, which we are very excited to see, but it wasn't necessarily what we thought would happen. Because like what you're thinking is it's going to start and it'll filter up, but it's happening at every grade level. The acceleration that is happening for our ELA curriculum, for example, in our junior highs, those teachers have been working so in sync across the district and layering on interventions because every single ELA teacher, pretty much, I think Katie is doing interventions right now during WIN, and the growth that we're seeing, and you can see that like it's higher than some of our elementary levels. So we feel very happy that we know we are closing those gaps as well with those things that are in place.
I want to reemphasize that all of our teachers are supporting our students at various levels, right? So it doesn't require an interventionist to provide support to a child who may need to accelerate their growth. So we have all hands on deck providing that. And I think the other piece that you don't see in our presentation, these are the outcomes, is the system that we've built to do that work. And so our district level team is meeting every week to look at data, analyze, see where we have higher levels of need, where we can deploy more resources, provide coaching, training. Our buildings are doing the same. They're regularly looking at that data to see where they have areas of need that they can address in different ways, and they're adjusting. Our grade level teachers are doing the same, and individual teachers are doing the same. So that system occurs in the same way, where we are analyzing data to drive our decisions and our adjustments on a daily basis all throughout the district. And that is every single person that we have educating our students. So that system is built to make sure that we are analyzing, and adjusting as much as possible. And that occurs at regular intervals and with multiple teams in multiple ways.
Can I just speak very frankly with the board? So what I hear, and I think I've heard it in public comment, I think we've heard it in multiple venues, is are we going to start offering after school tutoring for students? Is that kind of what we're getting at? Like where we want to see, or what might be something that you see as missing as part of the system?
That wasn't my goal in asking that question, but I think that I'm obviously pro that.
Is that what other board members are? I just want to, so it is absolutely an additional above and beyond. I think what's hard, especially, our not only our students are recovering from the pandemic, but also our staff. And so I think what I'm hopeful of is that as we build a more sustainable core bell to bell system, that the weight that our teachers are carrying right now will hopefully start to level off and feel a little lighter. because that, wanting to teach summer school and staying after to teach those, because it's another demand on our staff. So we are looking at outside that we're always open to outside opportunities that we can expand to that. But I think these 3 years that we've had to focus in on bell to bell is so essential. I would love to be able to do everything for everyone all the time. But what I want to focus in and the support is to say what we're doing bell to bell is solid, it's good, everything's working. We're still a work in progress. So I don't want to detract attention and start then slipping elsewhere. So again, I think that's just something I want to just communicate publicly. Like, those are absolutely options and opportunities, but if we can get bell to bell tier 1 solid core in place, then we can start to explore all those great want to do's above and beyond that.
I agree with the bell to bell thing. I wouldn't want to let any of the progress we've made slip. But I'm not opposed to what you bring up where we partner with an outside company or students who really need it. And especially because I think it was said earlier, some districts hiring all that extra help, now having to get rid of some of that extra help. So by maybe partnering with other things that are out there and providing those opportunities and giving people who can't afford it access to it or even knowledge of it, I think would be a good use of, and then not take away from the other work they're using.
This was something that was addressed in that New York Times article I was talking about, and it's two different philosophies. The one is you offer something like after-school tutoring opportunities. The concern there is the families who most need it often won't be able to schedule it. And I think that's why I commend the district on the focus of building win time and intervention time into the bell-to-bell schedule, because that's when we know our students are in the building and available to receive it. So I would say there's a little bit of risk there of it not reaching the students. I'll give you the example. So we do vision screenings in the school district, right? Where we get the kids checked to see if they need glasses, right? And if they need glasses, we give them a certificate, says, give it to the parents, say, here, you can go to any or a certain optometrist and get glasses for your kids, right? Free. There are still kids who don't have glasses, right? And so my concern is oftentimes we're going to run into the issue of there will be families who just aren't able to do something beyond the school day.
I get, but it doesn't mean the ones who can.
But we should focus on everybody at once.
Yeah.
I agree, but if we can get more kids into tier 1, then the resources can go bell to bell to the kids who really need it and maybe can't go to one of those programs.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just research and making sure that what we are investing time and energies into supporting are the things that really have the most impact for our students. There's a lot of, quality control when it comes to tutoring. Is it aligned to, the same standards that we're teaching? I think it's just a lot to research and take on, and something that we can absolutely, I think, look at and explore. We're not opposed to it. I don't want that to be the narrative. But I do want to say that the individualization of meeting student needs within our bell-to-bell schedule has been the priority focus. And I think our results are a reflection of that and the impact that it's having for our students, which is really significant.
Okay, that moves us on, unless there's more stuff on winter benchmark, to summer school update.
Thank you. I thought it was green and lit. Sorry about that. Some of the challenges that we had getting students enrolled in summer school in the past and thinking about a revamp of the program. And we sought your feedback on that. And I'm excited to share with you some of the updates that we're making for this year. So first of all, you can see our lovely graphic. Mr. Sampson in the back created it. You can just see that little guy leaping into his summer fun. We have reimagined Summer Quest into Summer Leap. And so the LEAP stands for Learn, Explore, Achieve, and Perform. And so we're taking a little bit of an enrichment angle this year to try to get more kids interested, excited, and involved, as well as our staff. So here's just some basic information about Summer Leap. Again, this year we're providing it in 2 locations that really worked out well last year, so that there's a north side and a south side, so that most students can access summer school closest to their home. And I'll talk about some programs that need to be at one school or the other, but most kids will be able to go closer to their home, so less time on the bus. Summer programming will be held from June 10th to July 3rd. That's going to be 14 half days because of no school on Fridays and no school on the Juneteenth holiday. So what are we going to accomplish in those 14 half days of Summer Leap? Well, we have certainly some free options for families, and then a couple of our choice programs that will have a small fee. And by small fee, I mean maybe $75 to $100 for the entire program. So very nominal, but just enough to cover certain extra materials that might need to be purchased. So our programs that are free for families will be the enrichment courses, which I will talk a little bit more about in subsequent slides. Now, the enrichment courses will be open for all students, but priority students are starting to be identified currently and will be registering early, kind of an early bird registration for certain priority students. And those students are identified as students in need of intervention. And so intervention supports will be available. So what our enrichment courses will look like is a 4-hour class with the teacher focused in on a theme. And then students who might need some reading support will have a pullout group. Some students who might need math support will have a pullout group like we do in the regular school day. Again, this is open for all students, depending upon staff availability and space constraints. We're also providing newcomer courses. Again, this year we had 4 newcomer classes last year that were well attended. Because of our large numbers of newcomers, we are targeting year 1 newcomers who need just additional support in foundational English skills. We also have a partnership with our Roosevelt University teachers again this year for students enrolled in our Spanish dual language program, and all students that are enrolled in that program will be invited to attend the Spanish Dual Language Academy. And then we provide a double accelerated math course for our students leaving 5th grade who are qualifying for a double advanced math pathway and just need a little bit of support in the 6th grade math skills that they'll be leaping over. Then we have instrumental music camp, which is a favorite each year, and then an additional sports camp targeted towards junior high, but we're still working on the amount of grade levels we can support with staffing for that.
Can I pause you real quick?
Absolutely.
Is double accelerated offered at all junior highs?
It is offered at all junior highs.
Previously offered at all junior highs? No.
Last year was the first year we were able to provide it at all 3 junior highs.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just parental experience of one child.
Yes. We are very grateful to be able to have an equitable experience for our double accelerated students. Okay, so a little bit more about our enrichment courses. Like I said, currently schools are identifying priority students for the early registration period, which happened to open today, and it's 2 weeks long. So this week is a week of parent conferences, and so this is a time at which teachers will identify those students who may need a little bit of extra support and provide them with the information to register for Summer Leap. And those are, like I said, students receiving Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions, as well as students who are receiving special education services in reading or math who do not qualify for the extended school year summer program, which is a different program. And then in March, once we have our numbers together and put that together with the staffing, then we're able to open those enrichment courses to all students in the district. Again, just based on the staff availability as well as our space constraints. And here are our elementary enrichment courses. So as you know, we just are implementing a new literacy curriculum, which also integrates literacy with content. And so what we decided to do, rather than have a remediation program for our summer program, we decided to give students a leap into the next school year by creating a enrichment course that covers some of the topics that they'll be learning in the first trimester of the next school year. So, for example, our first graders going into second grade, they will be having in both dual language, Polish dual language, Spanish dual language, and our monolingual classrooms, we'll have a unit next year about needs and wants, right? So our summer program is going to be Smart Spenders Academy, and they're going to get a little piggy bank, and we're going to save some money, and then talk about what things do we need to buy, what things do we want to buy. We'll set a goal to work with our community. So you can see we're integrating the content, the social studies content that's there, and also math. We'll have reading and writing, but it'll be a fun, engaging, exciting experience for our kiddos. So you can see there we have each of those topics fleshed out, and our instructional coaches, along with members of our instruction department, are working on the curriculum so that our summer school teachers don't have to create everything from scratch. And then we have a little bit different enrichment possibilities for our junior high students. So when we, for the past several years, we've had pretty low attendance by our junior high students. As you know, talking to our special junior high teachers, our junior high students don't always get real excited about coming to summer programming, right? So we are going to provide them with an opportunity to choose two enrichment courses. So basically half of their 4-hour day will be in one course, and then they'll switch and go to another course for the other half of their day. So providing them with additional options, some of which are not necessarily literacy or math focused, hopefully will bring more students in. So we're asking our teachers to identify a passion of theirs that they want to teach kids about. They'll develop that course. And then some of those might be literacy and math based, just like our WIN enrichment courses at junior high. And some might be fine arts, might be a music class, it might be a sports class, it might be creating a newspaper, things like that, in order to get our students excited and interested, and then weaving in those skills that they need to be successful in junior high. So we're hopeful that this new approach will allow us to have a greater interest. Our newcomer courses, those will be held at Devonshire, solely because the majority of our newcomer students are on the north side of our school district. So majority of those students live in that area, so we'll keep that up at Devonshire. And we're using the VISTA curriculum that was adopted by the board last year that our ESL teachers use, and that will just be focused on English proficiency in the 4 language domains: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And then, as I mentioned earlier, our Spanish Dual Language Academy, the Spanish Dual Language Academy, again, is Roosevelt students who are earning their master's degree in teacher leadership. They are all current dual language teachers, not in our district necessarily. I don't think any of them this year are. But this is their practicum experience. So it's free for us and it's experience for them. And they create and design this language, culture, and community curriculum, just emphasizing the Spanish and English language development. It's been very successful. Last year it was super successful and well attended. And we will, once again, provide that at Salt Creek. They need to be all together in one area, because right after kids leave, they have class the rest of the day. So we couldn't split that up into the 2 separate locations. So anyone who wants to attend the Spanish Dual Language Academy, if they live more than a mile and a half away, they'll get a bus, and even if they're on the north side.
Can I ask, for this, are these student teachers? And if so, no, they're not student teachers?
No, they're all certified teachers. They're getting their master's degree. They're current class teachers. All right. And just a note about staffing. So, as I mentioned, we identify priority students. We have students in need of tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. We have newcomer students. If we invited and were able to register all of those students across the district, we would be in need of 90 plus teachers. If all of the students who were identified as priority were able to come to summer school. And that's not giving everything for everybody, right? That's just our priority students. So I just do want to, to mention that staffing and again, space are issues that we have to, sort of pick and choose. And who do we want to attract for the summer programming? The kids who need it the most, which is why we do the priority registration. And then we'll regroup, look at the numbers, see how many teachers we can employ, and then open it up to the rest. Right now, we have 36 internal applicants, and our posting has only been open for 1 week. That's fantastic. Last year, I was able to hire 34 teachers overall. So we've already got, a nice solid pool without even like tapping shoulders or opening it up externally. So I'm hopeful that we'll get several more teachers ready to apply, especially after they hear how fun it's going to be tonight. And we'll have, plenty of classrooms ready for our students. But right now, like I said, we're at 36 and hopefully it'll grow. But just wanted, everyone to be very clear about that how we staff, how we're able to fill our classrooms is how many kids we can service.
So first, thank you. It's great to hear that we already exceeded what we had last year.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear. To all the teachers out there, please consider. And a question.
Yes.
But really, please consider everyone. Please, please, please. I think that's extremely helpful for our kids.
Yes, please.
And my question is, at which point do we have any plans on, if we have another 70 teachers come in and say, we can do it, let's do it. What is our cap?
Oh, goodness. I would have to ask Mr. O'Connor what our cap is for summer school. I mean, we would take whoever, we've never had to turn away a summer school teacher. And I don't think we would do that. So we would just ask Mr. O'Connor to rework his magic and make sure we had everything we needed to have those teachers paid.
But along those lines, like you mentioned, 90 would cover a lot of ground. 90 is probably the optimum goal here. What is that reasonable, achievable goal? Like if we had 56 teachers, we'd be able to, like, what's the number?
I would be doing cartwheels if I got 56 teachers for summer school. I don't know that that's, I mean, yes, of course I'm reaching for that, but we have never had in the history of summer school, at least in the last decade or so, never had that many staff.
I'm just trying to gauge if like what the staffing like is 36, like, wow, we got 36, or is it like we need so much more
I'd
help?
like more. I mean, we do with our 2 schools, we do have a certain number of classrooms we can use. We could, of course, move to a 3rd school if we needed to, but then that would require additional office staff, additional supervisors. So we prefer to leave it to 2 schools. And so I would say probably 50 teachers would be what we could.
Yeah. Because do we still have a nurse on site?
Have to have a nurse. Yep, a nurse. Principal, SEL support, what else? Teaching assistants. Yeah.
So this is, I guess, also part of the pandemic recovery and our staff recovering with time, right? Because you have here in the notes that people can't see. In 2022, it was 20 teachers.
Yep.
And last year it was 34.
Yep.
This year so far it's 36, hopefully a lot more. Do we know historically like what it was?
I don't have that information now, but I could find it. I mean, I think summer school was
add to the board.
Yeah.
Friday update. Just
Yeah.
like, get us like, what did it look like pre-pandemic?
Pre-pandemic, yeah. And I think we used to have it just at the Holmes campus for several years prior to the pandemic, and that included ESY there as well. So I'm sure it wasn't a lot more than we currently have, but I'll get those numbers for you.
Does this include ESY? Or is
This is not including ESY.
Oh, okay. So ESY, could you just briefly explain the difference between the two?
Yes. So extended school year, program is run by Dr. Elizabeth Degree, who's our executive director for Ed Services, thank you. And those students are identified as in need of that through their IEP process. And I'm sure Katie could speak a little bit more to that in regards to student regression and meeting their IEP goals.
That's correct. And it's a program built on retaining the skills that students have over the summer timeframe. So our staff look during the year at our students with disabilities and their ability to retain their skills, what their needs may be for that summer time period, and then determine how they qualify for extended school year services. That is run separately. It will be at Rupley this summer, and we are also in the process of hiring and staffing.
Okay, so I have open question to you as well as to our DEA folks. What can we as the board do to help get more students interested?
Teachers?
Actually, students and teachers.
One follows the other.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, but definitely teachers. Let's stick with a teacher conversation to get more teachers interested in doing the summer program. Because I mean, it's for me that would be phenomenal if we could get that 50 number. And I'd rather have a problem of having, oh, we might not have enough classrooms than, oh, we might not have enough teachers.
Agreed. What can we do?
Let's put them on the spot. We'll get some staff up here. Let's see what you're doing this summer.
Probably more money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something, I think that's probably a big thing.
So if we can, I'm very serious. If we can find some ideas or like things that would like nudge, help out, let's consider it. Let's consider it and let's push that needle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, pay could certainly improve that. I do know that I talk to teachers all the time and just say, you could pay me $500 an hour and I still need the time off, or I need to be there for my family, you know, those kinds of things. But I'm sure, you know, increasing pay would be one of those.
No, it's definitely, it's a break.
Yep.
People need their breaks. And
yep.
We respect that too.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
so
thank
that
you.
moves us on to 5.03 FOIA requests.
Good evening. There have been 8 FOIA requests since the last report to the board. I also want to make a special note for the board's awareness that we have received 14 anonymous requests from one requester, an anonymous requester, since about mid-November. And due to the volume and some of the requests, they have called for some more support from board attorneys. So over the last couple months, the legal fees were in the range of around $2,500. So it's a bit atypical for us, and I just want to bring that to the board's awareness. Thank you.
Okay, that's going to move us on to the consent agenda. And nobody make the motion because I got something to say first. So there was a typo we got to correct before we go forward. So first of all, does anyone have an item they want removed from the consent agenda? No. Okay. Seeing none, there were 3 typos on the committee of the whole meeting, January 22nd minutes. And it basically amounted to there were 4 names there, but the number 4 was not next to it for the votes. So can somebody open that? Whoever's controlling the thing? I don't know if you can open it.
It's on the agenda.
Oh, it's on the agenda. It's linked from the agenda. It's very minor, but I just want to make sure because what was put out in the original packet had typos, and I just want to make sure we correct them. So for item 1.02, going into closed session, keep scrolling down. The 4 names were there, but it was recorded as 3 ayes, but it was 4 ayes.
Okay.
And then for 1.03, I think it was recorded as, I don't remember what it was recorded as, but it was 501 is the correct number. So this is the corrected version. I just wanted to be clear. I would like to now make the motion. So I'm going to go back to the motion to approve the consent agenda, and I'm going to request that we put in the amended fixed minutes for that item. So, okay, so if we can go to consent agenda resolution, pull it up. Okay, so I'm going to resolve on the 12th day of February 2024, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approved the consent agenda, including regular meeting minutes of January 9th, 2024, the amended committee of the whole meeting minutes of January 22nd, 2024 that we just went through the amended version of. The remaining meeting minutes there, the disbursements resolution, acceptance of financial reports, acceptance of recommendations of human resources report, approval to destroy 18-month-old or older closed session recordings. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Sarah. Thank you. Is there any discussion of any of that stuff? Okay, so let's do a roll call.
Zach? Spino absent. Johnson?
Aye.
Ancia, aye. Sager?
Aye.
Shazim?
You stepped out.
Okay, I'm going to mark him as absent.
Yeah. Okay, that moves us on to 7.0 action items. Starting with 7.01, approval of the 2024-25 holidays. Anybody want to do that one, or I can do it? Okay.
Be it resolved on the 12th day of February 2024, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education, in accordance with the provisions of the Illinois School Code, designates the following days as holidays for negotiated contracts and administrative/non-negotiated employees for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
I'll second. Can we get a roll call on that?
Spino absent. Johnson?
Aye.
Ancia, aye. Sager?
Aye.
Shazim?
Absent.
Absent. Zach?
Aye.
Where is he?
All right.
He stepped out to the washroom. There he is.
There we go. Okay. Okay, so let's take these one at a time. I think it's the best way to run through it. We'll make the motion on the first one. We can have a discussion of it, and then we'll do votes. So be it resolved on the 12th day of February 2024, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education hereby approves the 24-25 traditional school calendar for a total of 198 calendar days. A copy of the calendar would be attached to the February 12th school board meeting. Can I get a second on that?
On the traditional calendar.
On the traditional
I'll second
calendar.
that one.
Okay. So I want to be careful before we go any further. We have a discussion at this point. So this would be to, if I read this correctly, this would be the traditional calendar for all schools in the district.
This
Okay.
would be like a repeat of this year.
This would be a repeat of this year. And so I'm going to say why I prefer that, and I'm going to explain why I think it's important, if you give me 1 minute to do so. So let me just pull up my notes here. Where'd it go? I just lost my notes on it. Okay. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I'm beyond all the data here. Okay, so it'd be the easiest thing for me to just say, it's popular with the Ridge parents. We should put the balance calendar back the way it was. But I have to take into account not just one school, but I have to take into account what benefits all schools. And so I have to take into consideration as a whole all of that, including professional development for teachers. Having two different calendars makes it difficult for teachers to receive the same professional development. We know that a high quality professional development has a big impact on our students and our success. And part of our success over the last few years has been that professional development. It reduces the ability for collaboration between teachers, between buildings. And we have buildings where we have teachers who are on an island in a singleton situation. It affects our ability to place students from other schools at Ridge. And it reduces the ability for interventionists to be shared across school buildings. There's some concern of administrative overhead. The common traditional calendar for all schools eliminates those concerns. Likewise, a common start balance calendar would alleviate some of those concerns. Therefore, I will vote for this traditional calendar. Does anybody have any comments on that?
I'm going to be voting nay on this resolution due to the feedback from the Ridge teachers and families.
Fair enough. Anybody else?
Just so I understand the process here, the procedure here.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have one motion that was for the traditional calendar, 198 days, all schools.
Yes.
Right. So that's keeping things status quo today.
That's my understanding.
And then we also have a
resolution for two different resolutions for balanced calendars.
at just Ridge.
Yes.
Okay.
Which would be traditional at the schools except for Ridge, and then just at Ridge, a balanced calendar. Yeah.
That starts when? I guess one starts.
One starts
Yeah.
in common start with the others. One starts early.
Okay.
Okay. Any comments on that? Further comments? No? Okay. Go ahead. Roll call.
On
The first motion, which
on the
was
first
traditional.
motion, which is for the traditional calendar for all the schools.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Roll call on that one. Espino is absent. Johnson.
Nay.
Mancia, aye. Sager.
Aye.
Chesney.
Nay.
Nay. Sec.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion fails. Next one. All right. This would be, I'll make the motion again. So this would be resolved on the 12th day of February 2024. The Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education hereby approves the 2024 traditional and aligned balanced calendars for a total of 198 days. This would, copy of the adopted calendars are approved, will be attached to the minutes of this meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So this would be a compromise that reduces the effects on professional development, allows all schools to align the start times and so forth.
So I'm gonna start speaking about that one because I
No,
was
go ahead.
I was the one who I was started leaning towards it during our last meeting, which
I'll second it so we can talk about it.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you, TR. It's second. We're going to have our discussion now.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Thank you, TR. But after our conversation, I came to realize that yes, it might be an interesting option that looks great on paper, but it is an option that was not even discussed or we didn't ask about, and we did get an overwhelming support towards going back to the previous balanced calendar by the teachers as well as the families. And then came another concern that made me think we are rushing into it. That's something that needs to be planned correctly, and that would be like things like, hey, the extended school year that is created specifically to help kids that are behind. Those kids would completely miss out on that opportunity. So for me, that automatically puts me in the no vote. I'd be willing to say, let's do some research. Let's see what can be done if we want to make some alignments. And I do believe we need to make some alignments to, maybe it will be like one break or the other break to make things easier for the teachers to get their development hours, right? And I'm sure there is some opportunities there because some of the breaks are not like mandated or they're not because of some holidays, right? So let's look into it and see how we can fix it or make it, not fix it, make it better, even better next year. So for that reason, I would be nay on this motion.
And I share your concerns, and I think that's why all schools on a single calendar make more sense, because then summer school is not an issue. And I agree, it is a trade-off. Yeah.
I will say I do appreciate you coming up with a potential solution that balances the two, but also share some of the concerns that Lucas presented ultimately. But I think it's something we should maybe not stop looking at.
Yeah, and I found it interesting. We received emailed comments in support of all three in various levels of support, which was interesting. And again, people had different pros and cons for each one. So
That's another thing on that.
So I think exploring it maybe is a better way to think about it.
I feel like we received I understand we can't survey on every potential topic or vote, but between the survey, between all the emails that were sent and people coming to the meetings and speaking, we did get a viewpoint from all perspectives. So I just want to say I appreciate that. I would encourage it for anything that you see that you want to give feedback on, because it did help frame the ultimate
Yeah,
decision.
and I want to say it was some of the most productive feedback that I've seen on the board, especially like we got emails from parents that were like actually weighing the pros and cons of everything.
Yep.
It wasn't just my way or the highway. It was very
It was good.
well done. Yeah.
Nope.
Okay, let's get a roll call vote.
Johnson?
Nay.
Mancia, nay. Sager?
Aye.
Chesney?
Nay.
Zach?
Nay.
Spino, absent.
Moving on. Hold on. Moving on. Okay, one more resolution to go. So, be it resolved that on the 12th day of February 20, I'll make this resolution as well because we need a calendar. I am not like, I want to be clear, we need a calendar, right? So, be it resolved that on the 12th day of February 2024, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education hereby approves the 24-25 traditional and early balanced school calendars for a total of 198 calendar days. A copy of the adopted calendars will be attached to the approved minutes of the February 12th, 2024 school board meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we need any further discussion?
I've said everything that.
Okay, me too. Like I to be clear, I just am going in order of preference. Go ahead.
I would actually comment just one
Yeah, go
thing
ahead.
of going off Mr. Chesney's comment here of looking into it more of what if we if we're going to focus on the calendar every year, or if it's going to be an issue every single year where we're spending a lot of time and resources on the balance calendar at Ridge every single year, more data points to help us make our decision. If it's the time and resources from the administrative perspective, flushing that detail out, flushing out the benchmarks out, flushing out the parents that can't go to Ridge or can't take advantage of that calendar, just kind of tracking that data. I don't want to create work, but I think if we have a fuller picture when we address this issue, if we address it again, it'll help make our lives easier here. That's it.
All right,
I'm done talking about the
roll call, please.
Mancia, wait, this is for
early start for Ridge,
early
balanced
start for Ridge,
calendar,
balanced
and
calendar
traditional for everyone else.
Okay, right. So Mancia, nay. Sager?
Aye.
Aye. Chesney?
Aye.
Aye. Zach?
Aye.
Spino is absent. Johnson? Aye. All right, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, motion passes. Okay, moving on. Approval of master agreement with Nicholas and Associates. Somebody want to make that motion? It's a short one.
Be it resolved on the 12th day of February 2024, Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the master agreement with Nicholas and Associates.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this? We've discussed it previously. Nope. All right, seeing none, let's do a roll call.
Sager?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Spino absent. Johnson?
Aye.
Mancia? Aye.
All right, that moves us on to 7.06, approval of Wold Educational Alignment Study proposal for remaining 11 schools.
I can read one for once. All right. So
All right.
be it resolved that on the 12th day of February 2024, Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the Wold Educational Alignment Study proposal for the remaining 11 schools.
Second it.
All right, any discussion on that? And discussed
What-
previously? Go ahead.
Timing wise, I know it was a couple months for the 4 schools that were done. Are we getting these in phases as far as like batches? How's the timing go?
So I believe that all of the work is going to be kind of continuous. I mean, they'll probably do them,
Mhm.
school by school,
Mhm.
but we anticipate fall. I think I included it in the original board weekly, the timeline. I could get
Okay.
revisit
I'll
that,
double check.
but it should be reports done by fall
Okay.
of 24.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? If not, let's move on to roll call.
Chesney?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Spino absent. Johnson?
Aye.
Mancia? Aye. Sager?
Aye. That's all. Motion passes. All right, moving on to discussion items. Resource allocation process overview, right? Or no, I'm sorry, I skipped way ahead.
it
Oh
is
my
another
goodness. Hold on. Sorry, we have a press pot. We have 2 more items, 3 more items. 7.07. You may as well start getting ready. Adoption of policies from press update 113. So let's make that motion, and then we can have a quick discussion of that.
I got that one.
Okay, thank you.
Be it resolved that the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the recommended revisions as recommended, amended with the district edits to the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education Policy Manual.
I'll second that.
Okay, and then just for people's knowledge, we had a policy meeting prior to the last board meeting a month ago where we discussed these. I don't think anybody had any major questions or issues on them. They were sort of like, there were changes in the laws, and so you have to change the footnotes sort of things, or there were certain required changes. I don't have anything more on these policies. Anybody else? Nope. Okay, let's do our roll call.
Zach?
Aye.
Spino absent. Johnson?
Aye.
Mencia, aye. Sager?
All right.
Chesney?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Moving on, approval of District 59 Educational Foundation donation. I'll make that one. Be it resolved on the 12th day of February 2024, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the donation from the District 59 Education Foundation to the Empowerment Fund and each CCSD59 elementary school totaling $5,600.
Second.
Yeah, okay. Be it further resolved that the superintendent shall communicate to the District 59 Education Foundation in writing, expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education. This donation shall be listed in the official minutes of this meeting.
And second that one
Thank
as well.
you. All right. Any discussion of that other than to say thank you so much to our Education Foundation folks who support our students? All right. Roll call vote.
Spino absent. Johnson?
Aye.
Mencia, aye. Sager?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
That motion passes.
Yay.
All right, and I think we got another donation here. Approval of John Jay PTO donation to John Jay Elementary School. Anybody want to do that one?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Be it resolved that on the 12th day of February 2024, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the $2,074.99 donation from the John Jay PTO to John Jay Elementary School to purchase audiovisual equipment to support student clubs, including yearbook and broadcasting club for morning announcements. Be it further resolved that the superintendent shall communicate to the John Jay PTO in writing expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education, and this donation shall be listed in the official minutes of this meeting.
Second. Any discussion on that? Other than again to say thank you?
Yes.
All right,
indeed.
let's do our roll call.
Johnson?
Aye.
Mencia, aye. Sager?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
And the
Spino absent.
motion passes.
Yay.
All right, now we can move on to discussion 8.01 resource allocation process overview, which is, I'm sure, more exciting than it sounds.
I will do my best. No ukuleles, but a lot of numbers for you, and hopefully some connections to some previous conversations from this evening and during the committee of the whole that can start connecting some of these conversations so individually they don't feel so overwhelming. But this is our annual presentation where we discuss HR shares, but this is, I'm very grateful for the entire leadership team, staff. We have regular leadership meetings with the DEA, with staff, with teachers, and we're always talking about our needs, just as Mr. Ludloff has shared and the whole SLT and Dr. Brezhnehan. But I get to come in annually talk about where we're at from a staffing human resource standpoint. It is important to remember that the recommendations are heavily influenced by different initiatives, programs, expansions, laws, enrollment fluctuations, all sorts of things that are out of our control. Some are in our control, some are not. And I'm going to walk through some of those for you. The process is this, it's been shared before. It is not different in terms of the different phases from gathering information, having discussions, talking to the board, and then acting. But it is important to note that the process continues to be refined as needs changed. We had such a great example when Mr. Ludloff spoke about how we changed the way we allocate interventionists and how we saw that impact on the student data. So perfect highlight there. This is our structure, but it changes as we need it to change. I shared this last year, and I'm going to share it tonight and probably next year too. For a very long time, every building got the same. Every school got a social worker. Every school got an interventionist. Everybody received equal. And that may have worked When all the schools were built, if they all had really similar enrollments and needs, that may have worked. Over time, that has come not to work. So when you talk about systemic change, this is it. And we did it. And it's a huge celebration because change is not easy, and especially when it involves people. So we started saying, instead of every school gets, every student's going to get what they need. We have made huge steps in that direction. We have some more steps to take. But that is still the approach that we are looking at. Where we can do that, that's how we do it. But it is my job to be fully transparent, not to be a broken record, but to be reminding the board that we still have structural inefficiencies that do not allow us to have economies of scale. And so we just have to understand that when we're doing resource allocation so that we know what we're choosing when we are giving direction to the leadership team. Let me give you an example. This represents every elementary classroom in the district. Sometimes we call them sections. That's every elementary classroom. So you can see comparisons from north to south. You can see it by school. You can see it by cluster. The orange boxes, those are monolingual classrooms. The blue boxes are the bilingual classrooms. Just looking at some colored boxes, you can see how different our schools are set up, which makes it incredibly difficult to give every student what they need with economy of scale and with efficiencies. And I won't belabor it because I know the board is aware. But where schools do have space, sometimes we can't find the staff. Where we can find the staff, that school may not have room in the building. Again, this is the connecting our different conversations. Let's see how many kids are in each of these classrooms.
Sorry, real quick. I like this visualization, and if oh, sorry, you're gonna go into more, but like when Wold does their stuff, like maybe like what it's a good visualization of like there's still capacity at Bird, like an empty box or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we discussed that also at facilities of getting like how many sections fit comfortably in each building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I have another organizer that I use with all the building administrators that also incorporates that. It's very important. But when you look at just, these are the class sizes. It's a lot of numbers. But just to make sure we're all looking at the same thing, and I pulled this last week. If you look at the upper left, Brentwood Kindergarten, that they have 3 classes of kindergarten, monolingual, 23 students in each class. If you look at Bird on the south side in Elk Grove, they have 3 sections of kindergarten, but only 1 monolingual. If 3 kids move into Brentwood for kindergarten, we've had a lot of kindergartners move into Brentwood, each of those classes would go up to 24. If 3 students move into Bird for kindergarten, that class goes up to 28. And so when it's, you know, where do you put the teachers, the teaching assistants, it gets a bit complicated. So I just wanted to show it to you in this way. We're going to dig in a little deeper. Let's look at just the monolingual classes. The other thing I think is important for us to look at is let's look at second grade. No matter where your second grader goes to school, do they have the same experience in District 59? No.
Mm-hmm.
Real simple boxes, real simple numbers. This represents a correlation with our certified bargaining agreement that says when a class in K1 or 2 exceeds 23 students, we need to start paying extra attention. It also says when a class falls below 13 students, we need to start paying attention. This is how many they are for our monolingual elementary classes. I highlighted a couple in 4th and 5th as well, just because they hit those marks. And the percentage on this one, if you're curious, it's about 15% of these classes. There's 121 monolingual, 197 overall. These are the singletons. We actually have more singletons for monolingual than we do for dual language this year. There's 25 classes of the 121, so it's like 20%, over 20%. This is the slide I'm most worried about. This is both So this is a singleton that has a class size we should be paying attention to. And this is the time of year with resource allocation to talk about that. Let's take a look at the bilingual classes or dual language classes. We just had the committee of the whole. We just talked about this. You heard from the teachers themselves. This is their day-to-day. Does your child have the same experience regardless of what class they're put in? Look at how many. We heard our teachers say it, and I know you heard it. And now I'm just showing you some data to go with it. That's what it actually visually looks like. They feel it. We hear it. That's what it looks like. Look at the upper right. 5th grade, Brentwood, singleton of 8. Go down just a little bit. John Jay, 5th grade, 29. And in a lot of ways, it is not easy teaching that class of 8. That's not enough kids to scrimmage. And the other thing with the class sizes, but then when there's both, and those singletons, as you heard the teacher say, those students don't have an opportunity to mix with other students, and the teachers don't have an opportunity to have a daily partner. So I wanted to show this before I sit up here, quite honestly, and say we need more staff. Because I'll be very transparent, there's a little insecurity being the head of HR coming to the board and asking for more staff every year. Makes me feel like maybe I am not counting well, didn't you just ask for some last year? We did. But these are structural issues. And that's okay as long as the board has awareness. So again, you know what like Mr. Mancia said, the more information we have, then we can start connecting these things and guiding. So I am going to ask for some more staff tonight on behalf of the leadership team and the needs of the district, but it is really very closely connected to some of this. So thank you for I can see how engaged you are in these numbers, and you'll see them, you have access, but I appreciate that because I threw a lot of numbers in front of you. So when we look at district departments, we look at the schools, we look at the classroom level, here's the breakdown for allocations for next year. And I started organizing it this way, a little different than last year, because these are the groups of staff we have. We have admin, we have certified staff, custodial staff, which is also maintenance, ESPs are paraprofessionals, and non-negotiated. I added another, and then a summary. So we're going to go through these, and if this works for you, this could be our visual and our layout moving forward. Administratively, we are looking to add 0.4 FTE. FTE is a single position, and that is for the coordinator of early learning. We currently have a 0.6, and with our growing early childhood program, this made a lot of sense to us. The enrollment of the students, the class sizes, this is that increase. You'll see I put a very rough estimated cost of what the year 1 salary with benefits would cost. Of course, you could hire someone that has more experience or someone internally, but then replace them. This just gives you a ballpark because I know it's important.
So this would oversee the early learning students at Ridge and the ELC, and if there's expansion elsewhere.
Correct. That program, which regardless of where it's located next year, well, right now we have some students at both Ridge and at the ELC.
Because right now at Ridge, is the ELC managed by the principal of Ridge or by the principal of the ELC or by here at the home office?
All of the above.
Yes.
No, and I think this is good because even if we look at the Ridge example with the 7 students, we don't want them to be on an island where they're just kind of on their own, isolated.
And the ELC has a principal, Ridge has a principal. The coordinator is working, as Dr. Brejahan said, with both of those, all those teachers. They're the one that is most updated on best practices, current law, professional learning, all of those needs.
Yeah, and I feel the board has made clear, I think, that we want to, for the south side, offer more preschool in a distributed manner, whereas in the north side, it's concentrated in ELC, but on the south side, we're looking at classrooms here and there, right, where we have availability. And so having somebody to help coordinate that broader program is key.
I do not believe that is the current vision.
That is
for
not the
what we're-
current vision?
Yeah. Sorry. And not to say that that's not, but I think right now, in terms of collaboration and economy of scale. I think we are looking at growing from within and then seeing where we go.
Okay, so maybe I
Yes.
misstated the broader picture, right? So I would say it's just a few classrooms on the south side rather than a center. And so the idea is we need a coordinator to coordinate because there's resources that that center has that the south side doesn't necessarily have.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
That is. Yes, thank you.
And the enrollment at the ELC has been up. We expanded classrooms. This, regardless of how many schools it's in, the numbers are there in enrollment to make a 0.6 a point 1.0. Certified. There's actually 2 slides for this. We are very interested in adding a position, whether it's one position with one person or we can split it into 2 halves and pair it with coaching or another model. But this would be a position that really focuses on our new teacher network. District 59 has additional support days built into the contract for new teachers. We have managed that in different ways. And as you know, we have had a lot more new staff. That's a growing group. So we want to make sure we update our supports. And then again, the other half with mentoring and retention. So we believe it'd be a total of a 1 FTE. How that kind of breaks out, it could be based on interest and personnel, but we think the need is absolutely there to provide focused full-time support, not a current job where it's a stipend, after hours type of thing. Bilingual education, these are certified, these are teacher positions. We are looking to add a facilitator of bilingual education. This is directly connected with some of the things we were talking about earlier today with the increase in newcomers, although you'll see some very newcomer specific pieces up there. We do have a facilitator of multilingual programming, Andrea Cohen. You saw her present last month. But this provides more support. This is specifically support for staff. When you have a facilitator, it's like our facilitator of science and social science. They are there to support the dual language staff, the ESL staff. So this is a position that is probably overdue given our enrollment and our staff needs.
And Ross, if I could just interject, what that would also allow us to do is to take our current facilitator position and have that with an emphasis on newcomers. And then this one with more of an emphasis on the dual language and bilingual component.
Yeah.
So that would be an additional FTE to that team that
Yes.
works to support all multilingual learners.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Brejnahan. Those 3, it really is an umbrella of newcomers, EL students, dual language students, and staff. And that really allows us to round out that team. Again, with the 3.0 newcomers, those are teaching positions with students. You see bilingual interventionists in there, if we can secure that, plus 4 positions for ESL resource and newcomer. So all of these are in that same category of increased enrollment and staff support.
Can I ask a very broad question? Are these like these positions? I'm sure we have turnover here where we can shuffle people around, but these positions, keeping in mind our new, like our look at the dual language program and refreshing that, like these positions are flexible enough where they can adapt to the changes in whatever we make to that program, or
You mean over time, or if our change? Absolutely.
Yeah, these are really the interventionists and ESL resource teachers, which are always needed regardless of the model and delivery and structure of the rest of the dual language program.
Yeah, and we did add, we added 13 interventionists last year, a newcomer teacher, and ESL resource teachers as well. This again is rounding that out. We actually the team did an incredible job of projecting what the needs were especially when it came to interventionists. But boy, our newcomer rate has really taken off. So this does support that. We are also getting really close to, last year we also added some junior high positions because not all electives were offered at all schools with schedule. You'll see that with speech and drama and those elective consistencies. The next one is an instrumental music teacher that we want to add. This is that teacher that teaches band and orchestra to fifth graders. And so we have 11 elementaries and we only have really 2.5 FTE that support that across the district. So that again is absolutely time to make sure that we have enough staff so they're not spread too thin and we can get more students the opportunity to take advantage of those programs. I won't have an ask for every tab either. So look at this. Last year we had 3 additional FTEs. Thank you. It was needed. We were hiring temporary staff. We had our crew doing tons of overtime and just really extending themselves to keep our buildings open and clean and ready for learning. We asked to have some more of the the position name's leaving me, but we needed to have more relief custodians. And also the way we are allocating them, they have a home base that they're at. And then if we need them, they're not going too far from that home base. So they get to know their facility better than just anywhere in the district. This has been terrific and has stabilized. So we do not need to ask for anything here. ESPs, last year we added 8 additional FTEs. We wanted to get more support at the school level. At the time, you may recall, I said, I don't know if we'll be able to hire all of these. We've actually hired pretty well, but making sure we have the right fit in the right place. We still have a few open positions to fill for that. So we're not asking for any additional. We are still getting this to a nice, stable place. And of course, I should mention here too, as we look at where students are next year, this is where we can also currently move some staff at school A to school B if we see that there's a need there and not at the other school from a student needs allocation standpoint. Non-negotiated, we're not asking for any additional FTEs there. And the final one under our other tab, there's a lot of conversation between the HR administrators in the area about different ways to have full-time substitute teachers. And so we're very interested in that as well. I'm not exactly sure what that specific, how that would be, how we would recommend that. Some are hiring them as certified staff. Some are I should say looking to hire. At-will employee, as an at-will employee. There's some pieces we have to learn that come with that. Like you can still start earning tenure. Do they have benefits? Lots of different components to this. But I bring this to the board on behalf of the leadership team because we would love, next month we will vote on this. It would, if we could get the approval for that and we have that window and we'll come back and give you more information, we'd like to be able to move forward with that. So it's kind of an up to if we can make that happen. I also think it's really 2 more things about this as I want you to know what I'm thinking. One is we would focus on all of those other certified hires first. Obviously someone's looking for a job, they're looking for their first teaching job. If we could find then some individuals, and this is 59 is still a destination district. We still get plenty of applicants. When we get back to the point, we're getting closer every day where we don't have any monolingual classroom openings, but I have these 3 student teachers and it's like, this is perfect. And then we start allowing them to attend our professional learning and we start getting, experience with them. It's just a nice pipeline for recruiting. But what we also don't want is that someone takes this job and then they continue to look. And the reality is that can still happen over the summer. Even when someone signs a contract, they can still look and now they found a 3rd grade position and they'd rather that. So we would go after those other positions first, but we would really like to start getting some permanent on-staff subs. This will not cure the sub problem. That is driven by staff absences. That is driven by not every individual that's looking for work wanting to sub. And that's okay. So I just want to be transparent about that but could this work and could it help? Absolutely. And it's worth a try. So I will come back to the board with more information about that, but it is included here for your awareness so that when we look at the summary, we were looking at 0.4 admin, 11 certified, 7 of those potential sub teachers. It's a total of 18.4 FTE at just over an estimated year 1 benefit of $1 million, which of course is an annual expense that grows over time. And again, this is an up to. if we feel our needs are met, let's say we have an enrollment dip, or then we're not going to hire 11 just to hire 11. But this is our projected window of where we think we would need some extra support, considering our current structure and how things are spread out across the district.
I think when we talk about fitting in the bell to bell, like this is where we get the help with that, especially. I really like the substitute teacher portion.
Yeah, I agree. And again, we're piling on interventionists. We hired a bunch of we added a bunch of interventionist FTEs. We're adding bilingual, similar ideas here. The hope is over time, your dependency on those interventionists go down with time. So I know this is an ask for next year. It's almost certainly an ask for the year after that. Hopefully by then we've got a plan for some structural improvements that will reduce those needs.
And from what I've already learned from some of my colleagues in regards to the sub piece, that they are often utilized in their experience in long-term positions. So that's a good thing, but that's sometimes then like, hey, I'm going to be out on Friday. Where didn't we get a bunch of extra subs? They could be doing maternity leave, someone that's on a medical leave, but those are still very difficult to find as well. So that is a good thing. But for those that are also listening, this isn't an opportunity. Nothing replaces your child's teacher working with your child. Nothing. Not an intervention. They all matter. Your most minutes with your classroom teacher, especially at the elementary level, nothing replaces that. But people have needs, and this can really close that gap a little bit, is the hope. So this is, if you have questions, you can ask me now. You can send them to me between now. We will bring this as an action item to vote on at the next board meeting, and then we will start our hiring process through. Well, it doesn't really stop. We'll just start hiring and until the first day of school, and then some.
So my questions are specifically on the full-time substitute teachers. Is the anticipation that they would be certified teachers?
Yes.
So they would be certified. Would they start earning tenure then immediately upon hire, or is it a different?
Well, those are some of the things I still need to really. I've heard a few different things.
Okay.
And not that if that were the case, that would be a no-go for us, but
Right.
I will definitely come back with some more information or share it in the board.
My
weekly.
concern would be somebody somehow getting tenure having only ever been a sub.
Well, and
like you wouldn't want somebody to sit in that position for several years, year on year.
Well, and it's not several. The tenure law has changed. It is now 2 years. Anyone that was hired this year, after 2 years, their tenure. So there's a lot for us to absorb and watch in the ed landscape, in the ed space, about how different districts manage and support that and handle that. I'm sure that was a solution to a problem. I will be willing to bet you it's going to create some other problems for both the teacher in that spot. There's a lot to learn in 18 months, over 24 months before that kind of a commitment is made, but we're not there yet. And we will absolutely look into all of those things. But as an up to for the board request to think about for next month, that's kind of our mindset.
And I would also hope that we're not poaching our current certified staff to go into these positions, right? This would be new hires.
Yeah, we actually don't poach any position anywhere.
Wait, do you mean for any of these positions?
No, for the substitute teachers, I want to make sure I'm not losing a classroom teacher to become a substitute teacher.
Yeah, I would say this. This is going to get a very HR response.
I really want to be 100% clear.
Here's your
teachers in classes.
Here is your HR response, Dr. Sager. Everyone is welcome to apply to any open position in District 59. We are going to put the best people and their strengths where we think they will have the most traction for our kids.
And substitute pay is not equivalent to teachers who are on our certified bargaining agreement. I just want to make sure for anyone listening.
I'm assuring parents out there as well that like, hold on, my
Yeah.
classroom teacher is not going to become a substitute and move around the district sort of thing.
No, and the pay piece is another piece we need to explore a little bit more. It is very different for us, so I understand like, wow, the conversation around it. I'm really focused on those 11 certified positions. I'm still focused on some of those para-pro positions from last year we haven't filled. I appreciate so much the board's support, but we will not hire our way out of a system that is not structured to give every kid the same experience across those cells. But while we are getting there, can we provide, and with our resources, we think we can, and that's the key. So we'll see what happens with the sub piece. This will not be the end of it, but I'd like to include it in this piece so that we can explore with a little bit more muscle than just kicking around an idea.
So this is the discussion. Next time you'll bring us an ask. Similar
This is
to
this is the ask. Tonight's the discussion. Next board meeting, it would just be an action item for you to act on. And if you have questions between now and then, you can send them to me, or we can discuss them that night before we
I just
act.
wanted to get a sense that everybody's kind of
Yes.
feeling good about it before we move away
I have
from the
one
discussion.
question.
For-
The
absolutely.
subs would not like replace the district would still have to employ daily subs, right? It's
Oh,
not like-
absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. And that's that piece that I don't want to accidentally give a false impression that, oh, then we don't need all the, no, we employ subs every day, a lot more than 7, and we're also short every day. So,
So
yes.
this hopefully just helps us minimize the shortages, basically.
Yes. And from what I've learned from colleagues, it really falls in the category of those long-term leaves where those subs are being asked to do lesson plans, and that's why they get paid more. So if you had 7 certified subs on your staff, even if you had 5 and you could distribute them out to those positions, it would help. And then the individuals who would normally start filling for those or in pieces could do the day-to-day absences here and there. And if it doesn't work, we can move away from it. That's why it's being looked at from an at-will standpoint. But if it works and we can build on it, that could be a good thing too.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so
Moving
much.
on.
Real quick, I just wanted to add one side note that's kind of like an offshoot of this. We don't typically bring other additional positions that we need to hire because of retirements or enrollment changes. So if there's, an increase in enrollment at a 4th grade and we have to hire a new 4th grade teacher, we don't bring that to the board. So there are some adjustments there. So one of the other pieces that I want to just mention is that we are seeing growth in our ELS program, which is currently housed for our K-5 program is at Rupley. And then for 6 through 8, it's housed at Holmes. It used to be housed at Grove, but due to space issues, we actually moved it over in 1 year over to Holmes. So we are seeing an increase in the number of classrooms and number of students being serviced in that program at Rupley, to the point where it's actually going to potentially be the majority of the school in comparison, which is not best practice and really limits opportunities for inclusion across both our general education setting as well as our ELS setting. So we are looking at other spaces across the district to create a secondary site for our ELS program, which may impact some more staffing changes just to ensure that we have equity and parity of programs across locations. So we will be looking and bringing more information. That is a programmatic move, which is something that we handle internally. That's not something that we would ask for a board vote on, but I want to just make sure that there's community awareness. We're building a communication plan. We're working with staff, our coordinator of the current program, to really identify our needs of our students and where their best placement would be, and then additional staff and resources that would be required for that. Our educational life skills program, so it is a self-contained program for students who have identified needs that qualify for that program. If you have not visited Rupley, I highly recommend that you do. The benefits that program brings to that school, and I would say the same thing at Holmes, is I wish all of our schools had that opportunity for inclusion and diversity. It's a beautiful thing, and I look forward to that growing program.
I will echo that, as my oldest, when they were in 8th grade, was one of the gym time buddies for the ELS program when it was at Grove, and it was an amazing experience for them to work with students in that program.
And I had that note and I missed it. Dr. Brejnahan, thank you for catching that. If you have questions, send them my way. I'll put them in the weekly. Thank you.
Okay, 8.02, school year pay bus fee.
What's up, PowerPoint?
All right, Dr. Bresnahan and members of the board, hello, good morning or good night, afternoon, whatever.
It's almost good morning.
So we promised transportation mid-year review when we first signed on with Safeway. That's what we want to come into. Again, just want you to see how this is being utilized. So the first piece you can see is that there are some major celebrations. There's some great service. Routes have been fulfilled compared to the last couple of years. We had a bunch of issues. We didn't have the right drivers. We didn't have enough buses at times. In fact, the fact of the matter is that Safeway needs 2 months to turn around for drivers, do their testing, they do their research for driving records, and they take it very seriously. We received a phone call from a parent a couple weeks ago stating that there was an adult that was in the back of the bus and they were like a supervisor. Well, they do audits on the drivers whenever they have a chance to make sure that they are actually doing all the procedures necessary for our students. So that was the parent was really happy, and we make sure that those Safeway staff members do have IDs so that they can be identified, but the parent wasn't on the bus, so it wasn't like they knew. So our financial obligations, it goes back to the same thing. We do have increased costs, but it amounts to more routes. We can actually fulfill them and add some if we needed to. Now, though, we are maximized with our drivers. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Sorry about that. There we go. So we budgeted about $8.9 million for transportation. However, with the added routes and the fact that we're fulfilling them, we're looking for at over $10 million in transportation costs this year. Combine that with the fact that the state has already mentioned that they're going to cut mandated categorical funding, specifically both regular ed and special ed funding. From what they'll do is they prorate it. So instead of giving us the 100% that they'd owe us, it's now 84%. They're actually going to go down to 71% for this coming fiscal year. And that will decrease our funding by about a little under $1.2 million. So that's something I do want the board to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you look at some of our numbers that we're going to go over, you have large buses that were 78 to 84 passengers. Those are about $76,271 for the 176 days. Now you can get a special needs bus, smaller, and we can use them at times when it comes to some of the routes. Those are for 23 to 39 passengers, $58,947 for the year. So that equates to a lot. It adds up quick. We've added a lot of routes to the ELC. We had to break up one at John Jay. However, our kids are getting to school back safely. So that's something, we have to, keep in mind. And then there are also midday routes, which is $84 a day. Would be, for example, for like a preschool or kindergartner, or who would have to go back home because we have half-day kindergarten, that would be considered a midday route. So we don't get dinged on that one as much as we would with a big full passenger bus that was for an entire day with, up to 84 passengers.
Can I ask, go back to that picture. This is a full-size bus. This holds 68, 70 kids?
84 if you have 3 to a seat in every single seat.
Sure. How many of these do, if you know, how many of these full-size buses do we operate at capacity? Like we send out a full busload of kids from these. Is it
None?
None.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. So here's an example. We have junior high transportation. We have about 12 to 15 routes based on where you're at. I would like you to just check it out for a second. Mm-hmm. Let me know any observations you can see.
So this is like the comment I'm making here. You know, if we look at Friendship, we have 12 routes. The average number of students is 34. So we're filling up, on average, half of that bus, meaning that there are some routes that have more kids, some that have far less kids on that large bus.
Yeah, and just to keep in mind too, I should have said this ahead of time, the average number of students is for students who are assigned to that route. And then when we notice that parents decide they don't want to have their child on the route, we'll ask them if they don't have, because we'll have the school let us know. Most times parents will say, no, I still want my child to be assigned to a route in case something were to happen. So they just, so you know, 34 on average to Friendship, that's kind of deceiving.
So this is students who have a seat reserved rather than students who actually ride.
Correct.
Okay.
And we don't have the data on the actuals, the riders.
No, because it can change from day to day, depending on if a child is there or not. I mean, we could get something, but it wouldn't be. I mean, from a day to be
Of course,
accurate.
it wouldn't be perfect, right? But
Right.
I'm curious, what's the magnitude of the difference, right?
Sure.
Because that tells us how much money we, I'm not gonna say wasting, but we could potentially look into manage better.
For sure.
Yeah, because right now, like just for my own knowledge, if you go to one of these junior highs, if you are enrolled at one of these junior highs, you are entitled to a bus route unless you live like feet from the school, right?
Within a mile and a half.
Right, within a mile and a half. So all of the junior high kids will get a bus ride unless they live too close to the school. And then at our elementary schools, at the ELC, we offer the bus rides for all the preschool kids at the ELC, right? So you can put
Correct.
a 4-year-old on the bus by themselves. They'll go on the bus by themselves, no matter where they live in the district. So we have to create that route to go get them and take them to the ELC. And that's the same for Ridge, right? So no matter where they live in the district, if they go to Ridge, we have to create the route for them to go to Ridge or any other school if we move them. The Brentwood example.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's go to the next slide.
So hold on, before you go back to that slide, the thing I noticed is they're all the same. The same average time,
Absolutely.
roughly the same number of students, roughly the same class.
It's definitely
I assume
worth.
that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, no, this is a reflective. No, I'm not teacher right now. I'm Mr. O'Connor. Okay. So, cost per rider right there. If you look at the numbers, you're absolutely right. You do have a very similar number per rider. Absolutely. Dr. Sager, A+. Now here's elementary transportation. And this is something else I'd like us to look at.
Yeah, so like J, the high average time sticks out. That a student that goes to J, neighborhood school there in J, is going to be on that bus for 50 minutes. And is that because of what? Why? Like why is J compared to Brentwood? Why is that kid on double time?
Because of our programming, because it pulls from beyond the John Jay boundary to service students. So if we look at, we can toggle back and forth because the next slide, Ron, if you just show, it kind of gives a description of what is offered at each of the schools. So you can kind of see what is causing the different transportation needs.
So someone that needs dual language services at their home school, where it's not offered at their home school, and that student goes to J to get those services, we provide the route. That kid is probably on the bus for 50 minutes because they have to travel farther to get to the school to get the services that they require.
Yes.
If they don't go to that school, they still get language services. It's just not in the dual language program.
It depends. So if they are at Devonshire or Forest View, they would receive ESL services and a part-time basis, and the family would have to decline full-time services. Yes.
Part-time still meets the mandated. It's part-time in
No, we are mandated to provide full unless the family declines.
Got it. Okay.
So the family declines in order to avoid being bused to a non-neighborhood school, I think is the better way to look at it.
Mhm. So for example, Frost here. Frost only has 2 routes. That's it. So when we say 2 routes, do we see, is that 2 buses or is that one?
Two
That's
buses.
2 buses, right? So Frost only has 2 buses that service Frost, but those kids are on that bus on an average of 47 minutes to and from, like 47 minutes to go home, 47, or is that
Correct. One way. Yes.
one way for those 2 buses for those kids at Frost?
Sorry, broadly, are these better than previously or worse?
You know, if you're comparing to last year, yeah, yeah, they're better because we do have the drivers. We are using the transportation. Frankly, when I first came to this district, I was pretty shocked about how few students were on a bus because I've been to other places where, hey, it's 2 to a seat. We'll put you in a, but again, this is me trying to help you reflect and think about, okay, so we have a pay bus fee, right? A student has to pay $525 to get on a bus. If it's a program though that's needed, right, it's fine. But if a child needs to go to another, to another building or whatnot, we have to set that price every year. It's difficult. We're talking about, and Mr. Vittori did a fantastic. Well, he's gone now, but he did a fantastic job with our with our this PowerPoint. Mr. Ludloff is showing some of the ideas that we can have as well with education. And you know what? He also mentioned it, and I didn't want to talk about it, but I'm going to anyways. About the fiscal cliff, it's real. We received $13.6 million, give or take. That's gone. And with all of the additions that are being asked of, I need guidance because some of this, it's not apples to apples.
And I think just to add to that, I think part of the conversation is that everything that we spend money on involve choices, and how we prioritize how we spend our money is the purview of the board. So I think that guidance that Mr. O'Connor is referring to, just to add on to that, is that we have practices in place that may have been historic from previous boards, previous practices, previous needs. But I think knowing what we are doing and what those practices are, and having on an annual basis the ability to say, yes, this is something we want to continue to prioritize, I think is an important function of the board. So this is why we want to bring this here. It was a good opportunity since we had just changed transportation services. But I think one of the examples that Mr. O'Connor brings up is that we have some students who are, in order to ride the bus, we are asking them to pay $525, which is a reasonable fee for students who do not qualify for busing services. But meanwhile, we are paying for other students to ride the bus for other choice and opportunities. And so we just want to be transparent in how those practices are being made, because it's difficult when he's on the end having to talk to parents and justify why some pay and some do not.
Yeah, that was something that I was going to ask. I didn't know there was going to be this presentation. I saw like how many kids pay the fee, and if we have so many empty, or do they have, are we required by law to charge people a fee if they're within a certain, is that required by law? And then also, how much, if we didn't have a fee, the buses are half empty, right? So it's not going to cost any more to add a new bus, but it might extend the route, I would imagine.
Yeah, by adding a bus, they automatically get charged that additional bus, no matter how long the route is. Now we do pay a fuel surcharge, so that gets added into it. But that's kind of where we're at.
But the kids who would have to pay are generally close to the school, so it's kind of like end of the route type.
There was one in particular that we had a discussion with. And again, I had a parent honestly ask me, why are my taxpayer dollars paying for certain programs?
So just to clarify, to give you an example of who pays and who does not. So for example, if your child qualified for services to be a part of our Polish dual language program at Claremont, which you can see the average bus time is a little bit higher. They have a lot more buses. They service the entire district. That is a required service program. It's not a choice program. If you have a sibling who does not qualify for those services at that school, but they then want that sibling to stay with, that sibling pays for busing if they do not qualify. That's how the practice has been established. We are not required by law to charge. No, we are not. We provide more transportation than is required by law. I think, again, it's the prioritization of, when we're talking about $10 million annually, it's just an important thing are we aware of how the choices are being made?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to hit what Lucas said earlier of, are we managing it? I think that's a good way to put it. And I'm going to keep picking on Frost here, just the number, and I'm picking him in a nice way. I mean, but it's, if we were the first board for this district and we were setting up the transportation routes and setting up the spend for transportation dollars here, would what we come up with look like that? Probably not. So it's good to take an eye as to what it costs per route, what it costs per student. These are real dollars. We approve X millions in action items, et cetera, but these are real dollars that go to a vendor and that we pay out. So it's good to see it in this way.
Sorry if I should know this. Who does come up with the routes and how many buses are needed and all that stuff? Because that obviously affects the total cost.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's our transportation department working with Safeway or other programs or other bus routes or companies in the past. So it's a collaborative effort. They use what they call VersaTrans. You put a child's name into it and it helps you track it. Then our staff actually double and triple checks it to make sure it's actually either within that route or tailored. I think we've tailored a lot to different parents to make sure that we get what we need. So, that's kind of how the process works. Yeah, I'm not here to pick on anybody. I just, as from a financial standpoint, I was looking at this and I talked to Dr. Bresnahan about it just to state, hey, this, if I'm going to be a good steward of taxpayer dollars, I would like to show this, as well as the fact that it also shows our bus company is doing its job. So that is a celebration. But again, it's when I talk to other business managers, it's almost like hey, how is your transportation doing, or this or that? Well, it's good, but they don't have like half empty buses either. So,
So what? I see the problem. Like, what is the potential solution? I'm not expecting you to like.
Yeah. Well, Tiara, could you expand on that a little bit? What do you think is a problem?
I think the problem is, and I know you got software that goes through this. Maybe some things are not as efficient as they could be, in terms of why one. I mean, I'm sure it goes down to programming, obviously, but yeah, like I understand that they review it, but where can we become more efficient?
Like, I'm going to put
I just want to say, because we went through a major transportation study as part of the equity journey, and we had our transportation coordinators both sitting here. They have maximized every efficiency for our bus routes. I am very confident between them and our bus system, our bus provider. I do not think that is a problem, unless we were willing to ask if we wanted to add more buses and spend more money.
Right.
Right. So I believe that what we have within this amount really is maximized efficiently.
Yeah. So what would the difference between another district who is like, what are you guys doing? Like, how are you spending so much money on this while your bus is half full versus our district?
We have our programming. our programming and the way we bus for our programming is very unique.
So then, yeah, so like to put it, just to make sure I get it. So like, I think when I think of buses and I think of like my own experience riding the bus when I was a kid, it was, you had your neighborhood school, you went to that school, you got a bus if you lived within a certain X radius of that school. Here, you have your neighborhood school, but we also provide you with programming options around the district, depending on various types of programming. And if you choose to take advantage of one of those options, we are providing you with the bus versus the other option of, you can go to X, but transportation is only for your home school.
Well, going back to Dr. Bresnahan, her statement too, as well, is that it's not always about choice either. There are some, some programming that we do have to.
Yeah, like the Claremont example, for
And that is, so a common practice in other districts, if you choose to participate in a two-way dual program, then you are responsible for your transportation costs. That is a model that is out there. But I guess we bring this forward not to say that that's what we want to. Is the board comfortable with the level of spending that we have on transportation, or is this something that we want to look at reducing? Because I think it needs to be a board directive.
Well, I'm gonna pick on you, Mr. Connor, in a nice way. But the like, if we're looking at it just as hard numbers, we had a budget of X for transportation, and our costs have exceeded what was budgeted for transportation, right? So we forecasted X, we're exceeding that, so we should be looking at how to get to X or below X, right? That's kind of the thing that we should be doing.
So in all honesty and in benefit to Mr. O'Connor, in the facilities and in finance committee, we did discuss this numerous times, and he was always honest that if we want to mitigate the issues we had with the buses last year and in prior years, and get to the higher quality and effectiveness, we will be spending more money, and that's exactly what is happening here. So our budget was created, and correct me if I'm wrong, based on what happened last year, and that was a lower quality results.
Correct.
Yeah. So like for me, I'm okay spending more considering the high quality, but I would still think let's do if there is an opportunity to do that, a quality check, especially if we got kids. I mean, buses driving around empty. So if there is a way, if there is a potential to just, not saying go in and kick anybody out, just take a look at where do we have kids that are signed up and not riding, and how would it look like if for instance those kids were not riding the bus, right? What is the opportunity there? And I'm not saying that's going to be a decision to just cut it out, but maybe there is then a starting point for let's brainstorm how else we can be more efficient with managing the money spent.
Yeah. And I agree with that aspect. Just I think to be mindful is that let's, at any point, if a child who hasn't been riding all year wanted to ride, we would need to have a route for that child.
Absolutely.
So I think that is to reroute based on actuals, and then when bad weather comes or life circumstances change, those are the things that make it more challenging. We have to base the plan on all of the students who qualify for that. Right.
That's
so
understandable.
I get both sides, but just to speak to how we actually have to route.
Whatever we be doing, I agree. We need to keep that in mind. 100%.
Yeah, personally, I don't think transportation is necessarily where you cut. It's a huge piece of. I also don't know what's an acceptable. I mean, I'm used to driving an hour and a half into the city and home every day. I'm an adult, obviously, but what is the standard that you try to achieve in terms of average route time? Or is there the Devonshire route? If that goes up to 30 minutes, do we go down to 4 buses? Right. So I don't know. I have no idea. But minor changes. But if this is what it is, to me, it's needed.
Some of it is impossible to change. I mean, my daughter, I guarantee her boss is bringing up Claremont. I know, because I know what time she gets home.
Mhm.
And I mean, yeah, we can make it faster. I would love to, but it means she has a private chauffeur, which would be typically a parent, right? So that I think that's where the difficulty
Yeah.
lies. I like,
Yeah.
at which point do we just add more buses for single kids?
Yeah, and it's hitting on what Dr. Bresnan said. When we talked about this in the equity journey, I remember when we were at, was it Blackhawk, at delivering the school bags, and I was talking to parents because we were talking about the transportation times, and I was asking parents, like, how long is your kid on the bus? And I would get the answers. Some didn't know, some 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it was. But just kind of gauging what they thought was normal and what a parent thinks is normal. And it's like we always say, like, if you have two kids that live on the same street but go to different schools, are they getting the same experience? And if you have one kid that's on the bus for 50 minutes because they're going to J, and you have another kid that's on the bus 20 minutes less because they live across the street and go to Low, it's kind of that adds up over time, right? That adds up. That's tiring. It's 50 minutes for a kid to be on the bus.
Okay, so let me just say we're a bit unique because we are a community consolidated school district. We are not allowed to charge a bus fee for all students. There are districts surrounding us who do charge a bus fee because they operate under a different rule than we, a different part of the Illinois law than we do. Is there a way for us to get information? What do they charge their students?
Yeah, it's probably published on their websites.
Okay.
You could find it relatively easily.
And then the only groups of students we would be able to charge would be students at choice programs because of the Illinois law that says that we are not allowed to charge for required programming. Correct?
Yes, and those that live beyond the 1.5 miles or outside of a hazardous crossing.
So I think having that bit of information would be informative. The reason I think we charge for the less than the 1.5 miles is the concern is if you don't charge, everybody's going to sign up. Right? And so there's a nominal fee to try and take a load off the system, right? The only place we could do that would be our choice programs for a nominal fee again, because we know there are people who don't ride the bus. And if it's like one day a year, they would keep their name on the list because one day a year the weather's going to be bad and they'll take the bus instead of drive. If you charge somebody a couple $100s, they may make the choice not to be on that list, and that may reduce ridership across programs.
I don't think I wouldn't be too concerned about people living within the 1.5 miles all of a sudden signing up for bus. Because, I mean, if they do, was an extra stop, 2 stops? I don't know like how spaced out stops need to be, but it'd be interesting to know. How many pay for buses right now? Do we know?
Last I checked, it was 7.
Right. Okay. Seems like a lot of.
No, but I think definitely we should continue, in my opinion, continue to look at this, always looking at ways to improve efficiencies here.
Yeah, and I think the general bringing this up is that if the board gets to a place where we need to analyze spending or reduce spending, so TR, you just said this isn't a place you would look for reduction in spending. I think that needs to be a board conversation. We, as two of us that are continuously looking at this and as, fiscal stewards of the community, this is a good conversation that we need to be having across our programs and different functions so that you can really see where the priorities lie.
I want to, if this is a place we can become, what I'm hearing is maybe not, if this is a place we can become more efficient, so the spending, so the experience and the quality that they're getting this year compared to previous years is the same, but we can become more efficient and spend less, of course, spend less.
Sure.
But if this is just the best it can be and it is what it is, then no, at least me, that's mine.
I would try this, maybe connect it back to Mr. Vittori's presentation a little bit when you looked at the class sizes and the singletons. All of this is data that we've shared over the last 3 years, pretty much annually. But I think the conversation around that is the same thing. So when you see an 8 and a 29, that is not the efficient and effective use of our teaching resources. So, and then a teacher with a class of 8 or is absent, we have a full day that's a sub that's in that classroom, right? So those are all factors that I think we bring those data points forward to let you know when we are running the system, we can only find so many efficiencies within our current structures. So to find any further efficiencies means the structures have to change. And I think that's what we're trying to continuously put in front of this board so that you can be aware, hey, if we're okay with 8 and 29s, then that's okay. Then we just need to say that so we can plan and move forward. But if we're not and we want to see other efficiencies found, then I think we have to be willing to engage in the conversation of how do we change the structures. So that's the guidance and direction that I think we're looking for in a conversation when we bring those types of things into resource allocation, transportation. I mean, there's a lot of food service, all of these things that we talk about, especially when we start looking at our educational alignment studies and our facilities. They are all interconnected.
All right, thank you,
Thank you.
Ron.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, food services contract, is that still you?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know where you thought you were going.
Okay, we are okay for 8.03. So yeah, we are seeking proposals. The state needs 30 days to look over the bid that was created between me, Eleni, and Stacy Emanuel. So they're in the process of it's submitted. They're looking at it. We're prioritizing the following is food quality, student participation, and service. Of course, pricing is as well, but we're really prioritizing a lot more of the service piece as well as student participation. 8.04, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I will take 8.04. Were there any questions on 8.03?
Well, just a comment on the 8.03, which you heard from me already, but I'll restate it. Like, I am concerned with the food quality that we have in the district. My daughter literally ate from cafeteria once, and I said she'll not eat again. And there are more kids that I know just simply like the food is very low quality, which for me is concern. I know there's some minimum standards, but like, yeah, I'm very glad that you're looking at the food quality as one of the key aspects of the review and looking at bids.
All right, thank you. 8.04.
Okay, 8.04 is not a new topic, but it is a topic that was attached to our original approval of our Brentwood project. So as we know, we are moving forward with a plan to create Brentwood to be a 3-section school. And in order to do that, we need to reduce enrollment. We're doing that in 2 ways. The first way is by letting our dual language program, which we started 2 years ago, moving students over to the Frost area. So it wasn't technically moving students, it was starting their program from kindergarten on over at Frost. So we currently are now, this year, we have grades 2, 3, 4, and 5 at Brentwood. Next year, we will have grades 3, 4, 5. So over the course of the next couple of years, we will have 1 less section at those grade levels due to the dual language move, which, again, not an easy decision, not an easy thing for our staff who are currently at Brentwood, but wonderful job in the transition and the planning with Frost, and a welcoming environment also contributes to our transportation conversation.
And if I could hit on one thing, Dr.
Yes.
Bresnahan, on that piece, is we always talk about boundaries, we always talk about moving students, and we did it here. And as far as I am aware, not one complaint, not one parent that furious with us with the change. It was a change that was made to benefit those kids, and it was done in a well manner.
Yes, and I want to thank Dr. Barrett and her team over at Brentwood, as well as Ms. Law and her team over at Frost, and as well as Devonshire, because Devonshire didn't have the opportunity to move one grade level at a time. Their dual language program moved all in 1 year. And again, successful moves, a lot, and Dr. Perdomo as well. There was a lot of conversation, communication with families, individualized communication, and really a warm and welcoming and nurturing environment over at Frost. So those are some examples of what has been done. But the secondary piece and the way we're going to achieve the 3-section school is by also looking at one particular boundary area, which we said would be a request from the board and that we'd be bringing it back. So we are bringing it back. It is one small section that is not actually adjacent to any of the other areas by Brentwood. It's actually closer in proximity to Devonshire. And that particular area, we are actually seeing an influx of students who are newcomers, not necessarily dual language, but newcomers requiring other language services. I believe, and Dr. Barrett is here. I might actually ask you to come up to the mic, Dr. Barrett. She has been an amazing resource in connecting with our families. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but just in that area alone, how many students have we had move in this year?
In this year, I think it's over 20, I believe.
Yeah. And how many were the kindergarten families?
So right now we have 17 families who reside in that boundary currently, who are kindergartners at Brentwood.
Yes. And if you recall, we had 3 full sections of 23, which is the cap, right? That was the circled, back to Mr. Vittori's visual. So this is an area where it is growing, and we know that there is a need. And so if what we would like to recommend and bring for board action next month is to establish from this point forward, March 4th, the date of the action, forward, all future families who move to that area or enroll new kindergartners will be homeschool Devonshire. What we would also like to consider is how we proceed, knowing that we have an influx of students. So for example, if we had a new student that lived right next door to Brentwood in kindergarten, I would evaluate those class sizes and consider whether or not I should have them over at a different school, which are current choices that I am individually making based on class sizes at all of our schools currently. We have had several examples of, we had a Bird family that is attending Claremont. They had 3 students in our monolingual program. There were not class spaces for them at Bird. They are now over at Claremont for the remainder of their CCSD59 experience. So Dr. Barrett, again, has been making connections with families. We would like to offer the opportunity for those families to enroll at Devonshire, especially our younger age students, because by the time they are in 5th grade, they will be the only students left in their area, in their neighborhood, that are being bused over to Brentwood. All the rest of their community will be over at Devonshire. Do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, so I did reach out to the 17 families, and for most of our families, the easiest way to reach out sometimes is through Seesaw because of the automatic translation. My message did get translated into at least Russian and Spanish, I saw. And part of that note to those families was weighing in the balance the what's more beneficial. I think that's like the decision before all of us is staying at a school that you start for kindergarten, or potentially going to a school shortly after kindergarten with people that you go to, that you live with, your neighbors, your friends. Eventually, those kiddos will be just some of a very few who are coming over to Brentwood when everyone else in that whole area is going to Devonshire. And so that's something to weigh and consider. I will say that I did ask those families to reach out to me with any feedback that they have, and we haven't received any. So, I asked them to watch tonight's board meeting, of course, but and just, stay tuned for up-to-date information, but we haven't received any feedback.
So can we get the boundary map put up on the screen?
Thanks for doing that, by the way. That'd be, if you do get any feedback from that, might love to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because Brentwood has a unique boundary.
Yes. And again, next year we know during construction is going to be a very tight year.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that we are planning future forward. So you can see, Mr. Gray, if you can kind of circle, are you driving? Thank you. That one little, that square area right there, that's not even, really connected. It is closer in proximity to Devonshire. And again, I think what we were asking for from the board is a permanent, from this point forward, for new families to create that as a new Devonshire boundary. But also knowing that we would like to reach out to families that currently live there and have recently enrolled to offer them the opportunity to enroll at Devonshire, which would alleviate some of the pressure at Brentwood moving forward.
And that kindergarten, that kindergarten, those classes right now that are sitting at 23, I will tell you, it seems like almost weekly we are getting new students registering at Brentwood. And a lot of them are on the younger side. The 23 has been recent. We were 21, 22, 23, and that's having kids put into each class. So that's not like when you go from 22 to 23, that's actually 3 kids because we have 3 sections. So just really recognizing that that's a bubble classroom that's going to be, those 3 sections are going to be with us then for the next 5 years after this, and with the potential of kind of needing to pop another section. And for us, right now, space is just not our friend. So we wouldn't have another classroom. So then I weigh and balance too the educational experience of those students being in a larger class with an aide. We've been there at Brentwood. We had a class of 34 with an aide 2 years ago. So we know that that wasn't the best experience for students. So, it is hard to switch schools, of course, but it's also what's, we have to weigh a couple factors.
So is this a scenario, Dr. President, if another student moved into that little area down there, you would probably send them to Devonshire anyways?
That at this point, now I will say 2 weeks ago,
yeah,
we did have a kindergarten, and I didn't feel right that we hadn't had this conversation. We were sitting right at like 20. It created the 23, but I did say at this point forward, now that we are, at that cap, not that it's a cap, but at the conversation number, we would start looking at what other location we would put them in. So I think this just establishes that this is one of those bell to bell strategies, right? How we enroll our students it lays the foundation for the class size, the experience, plus the needs of the students, balancing those things out so that interventions really take hold and can be delivered appropriately. It's such a foundational piece, and all of this is interconnected. It ties into the transportation. It ties into every facet of what we've talked about, from outcomes to boundaries. It's everything in between for bell to bell success.
I said last year, I don't understand why a family has to drive by one of our schools to get to theirs.
So one concern that I have, I agree that we need to do something, and that's the right direction. Maybe not, it's a concern. It's not a stopper, but it's a concern that means we need to keep our fingers on the pulse. If I remember correctly, Devonshire is also getting close to the capacity, which will have soon the same problem as Brentwood, right?
I think that was
Devonshire
fast.
actually is under capacity because we moved the dual language program out. So it actually has room.
Okay.
It does have room. And all of their classrooms are not singletons. They're all general education monolingual classrooms with ESL.
I think you're referring to Frost, when all of the dual language from Devonshire and partly from Brentwood went over to Frost. So Frost is in
I
there.
might be looking at some old slides. I might be looking at some old numbers.
Yeah.
And so I guess on this map, then that little box becomes like cross-hatched, right? It grandfathers in Brentwood for current students, and future students are Devonshire. Right? And from March 4th, presuming.
Yes.
Okay.
And part of it too, why, we really wanted to have the discussion tonight, and we pushed back, trying to get to action tonight because we really needed to discuss it. But just knowing that registration begins February 26th, which means that for 1 week, families will be sitting in a queue waiting for this action to take place in order to know what their school will be. And so the sooner we can move towards that, I think the less anxiety or worry we have for our families who are residing in that boundary or moving into that boundary.
So would a straw poll make you feel better?
I would absolutely love some consensus reaching here on that.
Change the boundary for the future, but keep people grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Are you good with that? Good with that? Good with that? Okay, so that's 5 people who are good with that.
That is very helpful and
that
can
may
guide our
help you when-
conversations. Yes, thank you.
When you're talking to new families about what's happening.
Yes, thank you.
And I think that that's the key is for me. I thank you all for really staying in touch with our families. That piece is so important to me. So thank you for that.
Well, that is
Okay.
Dr. Barrett and her team
Thank
and
you.
all of our schools. I think any move that we've made with our students has been successful because of that really strong connection and relationship that they've developed, which is why we don't hear that. We don't hear push, our ELS program, right? That's a big shift for our students who have high needs.
There's communication and
But it is a lot of support, and it's based on creating a better experience for them. And they put a lot of trust in us to make sure that that is the best decision. So I appreciate the conversations, but it is something that is happening regularly across our district until we really get that a better long-term structural solution, so that way I don't have to individually decide for families. That never feels good, and it's really
Mhm.
hard to be consistent with that. So I appreciate the guidance on this piece.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for staying so late as well. Yeah. We have a bid for refuse and recycling service, 8.05.
We do. So we sent out a list for bid for requests for this because our contract was up, and from this current year going forward, it would be the rates not to exceed CPI. If you look at it, it was Republic Services, so it's trash plus recycling plus administrative costs. It's about 6.5% to 7% higher than it was last year, but it year over year renewals, we have options in case things were not to do so well. So,
Is that who currently does it?
yes.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
All
All right. Thank you very much. That ends all our discussion items. Reports of the Board of Education. I would ask you to make it brief, please.
I got nothing.
No? We're good?
Lucas and I visited Grove and the ELC this past month, and they were both adorable in different ways. And we got to meet with at Grove the student council. They were really awesome. That was a great meeting. Ms. Jensky really welcomed us into the building, and Ms. Ramsey as well at the ELC. Just seeing our most adorable future D59 students was fantastic, and seeing all the outdoor space that they're going to experience at the ELC that they may not have otherwise was just really inspiring, and I'm excited for the future of those kids.
Yep. Just
All
one
right.
thing. Just
Yeah.
one thing to add. On those visits, second everything you said, and those places and those kids adorable at the ELC and Grove. But wanted to touch upon the conversations we had with our security officer at Grove. I mean, I was very much impressed with his approach and with the rapport he's building with the students and helping students that otherwise would not open up to teachers, principals, and anybody else, and suddenly being able to do it with the security officer. I think this was just phenomenal. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with our other junior highs, and hoping that, like, as they get accustomed, and as we get more officers and they get accustomed, that we can maybe get some sort of a download for the board.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Informational items? Do we have anything? No. All right. Then we are going to do closed session stuff again.
I
Yeah.
don't think you got the votes for that.
Well, let's see how it goes. Okay, so let's move. We go into closed session for the discussion of items A through G, noting that G was added since the printed agendas were posted, and so we've got the purchase of lease of real property.
What's the time?
It is currently 10:18 p.m. for closed session.
Second.
Second by Lucas. Let's do a roll call.
All right. Zach?
Aye.
Spino absent. Johnson?